I drove past it today. His house was neat, the fence house to the north side of the city. It's a neat looking house. What a better house.
We both got our grades. Do I have what?
It does.
Okay, I'll call this Board of Selectmen meeting to order for December 5th, Tuesday, 2017. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for December 5th, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Everyone is in attendance. Parliamentary procedure. Don't interrupt anybody who has the floor, and you get the floor by being recognized by the chair. Approval of minutes from November 21st, 2017. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of November 21st, 2017.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 21st, 2017.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Communications. Is there any communications? I do have one piece of communications. An email came to me this afternoon, and I'll read it. It's from Melissa Maltese, and she says, I want to let you all know that due to grading issues at the Veterans Green, we will not be able to put the ice rink there this year. Instead, we're going to install it in the area, open area by the Town Hall Annex. Once installed, we will blast it out to everyone officially. I have contacted Mr. Barton to let him know that it cannot go there this year, but when the grading is done, we will hopefully put it back in the future. Okay. Now we'll have public participation, but there's two agenda items. One is Margaret Drive, and I think there's a lot of people here from Margaret Drive. So I would ask you to hold your public participation until we get to that agenda, and then you're welcome to have all the input. And also Community Day. There might be some discussion about Community Day. I'd like to put that off. We have that on the agenda also. So without going into those two subjects, is there any public participation? Yes.
I have a question. All our town roads recently were chip sealed, and I drive East Road, Thrall, and Graham Road on a regular basis daily, to and from work. And now with it getting dark, there's a hard time discerning where the center of the road is. Are there plans for the town to strike the roads?
I don't know, but I don't know. That's a good question. I'll ask Lenny Norton.
Excuse me, I need identification.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Robert Wynot.
Thank you, Robert.
I can comment a little bit about that, only in that I think it was yesterday that maybe they started because they striped Rockville Road.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't done, so maybe
All right.
they're getting into doing that pretty quick.
Okay.
Further public participation? Yes, in the back.
Bob Leach, 39 Church Street, speaking to you tonight on behalf of the East Windsor Republicans, Chairman of the East Windsor Republican Party. Tonight you'll be taking up an agenda item which is to appoint a police commissioner to a Republican seat that's been vacated. I'd like to inform you that the East Windsor Republicans have endorsed Darren Long for the vacancy of the East Windsor Police Commission. Mr. Long served previously on this commission from 2013 to 2015. His depth of knowledge on the commission's work is invaluable. It puts him in a position ready and fully capable to perform the tasks at hand. Mr. Long also carries with him 26 years of public safety service from '86 to 2012 in the South Windsor Fire Department. Those years of experience bring a unique and beneficial insight to the Police Commission's work. As chairman of the East Windsor Republicans, I urge you to take strong consideration for Mr. Long and what he offers to our community in East Windsor.
Thank you. Further? Yes.
Ed Philippone, 22 Stanick Road. I'm here as Vice Chairman and Acting Chairman for the Police Commission. I am also asking you to consider Darren Long for the position. I was on the commission when he served, and we all worked well together. He's familiar with our procedures, and I didn't know he had so much time with the fire department, but I think that would be a valuable asset to bring to the board.
Okay, thank you. Further? Public participation? Yes.
Richard Pippin, 37 Walm Road. I'd also like to speak in favor of Darren Long. He was on the police commission before. I think he'd be a good man. And if you look at the votes, he only missed it by a couple.
Thank you. Further public participation? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Bill Towers, 14 Maple Avenue. Over the summer, I have a question. Over the summer, you guys appointed a new fire marshal and a new deputy fire marshal. Did you guys review a job description for that?
We have a job description for the fire marshal, yes.
Is there any way I can get it? Was it reviewed in the past 4 years or prior to?
The prior commissioner was, I believe, the commissioner for about 30 years.
The prior, yes.
The prior.
Okay, well, things change within 30 years.
Yeah.
So within I know in the charter it says that appointed positions are supposed to be reviewed every 4 years, the job descriptions. I was just wondering if that was done during this appointment?
Not during the appointment.
Okay, so is that something that should be done?
Well, we can do that.
Okay. I just have a statement I'd like to announce. And it really pertains to the town of East Windsor, not just being a safe community. Or it should be a safe community, because right now I believe that we're a lucky community, that some things haven't happened here. My name is William Towers. I'm a fire inspector for the 8th Utilities District in Manchester. I'm an authentic source, and I'm making a formal complaint. I've tried emailing the First Selectman on November 7th. I left a voicemail to the fire marshal's office on November 15th with no answer from either one. I also have the fire marshal's number, if anybody would like to call it. I ask you to call it and just see how you make out. Last December, during the newly renovated Broadbrook Elementary School, while volunteering with the kids' store, I noticed that there were 5 out of 10 emergency lights that were not working. I went to the principal. She had a maintenance person fix it right there, and she thanked me for helping her out. She knows what I do for a living. And I asked her, when was the last time you were inspected? And she didn't really have an answer for me. I think her answer was, not that long ago. An event in June at the Liedertafel Singing Society, also known as the German Club, again, the assembly hall in the back. Now, we all know the Rhode Island fire, okay? That building is very similar. In the back there, again, exit lighting not working. Emergency lights not working. They have a fire extinguisher in the back there that's dated 2009 was the last time it was inspected. Recently, while eating at the Main Street Grill, just for kicks, I tested the emergency lights. And when I say emergency lights, there's none in here, they might be built in. Really, you just go up and you, all right? So you know that works. So I tested 3 out of 5 of them, and instead of working, usually they work, but they buzz. So when they buzz, that means the battery's dead inside, okay? The battery charges, so they're dead. Okay, so 3 out of 5. Banquet room, bathroom, and hallway. I then, out of curiosity, went to the hostess to see when they had their liquor permit. Because usually, to get your liquor permit, you have to be inspected by the fire marshal. Well, I was there in October. I was there at the end of October, and the permit was issued in September or October. It was either September or October. I don't remember. No competent fire marshal would sign off on an inspection with emergency lights buzzing. If that's possible, it's negligence. Scout Hall, which I know is not in this section's jurisdiction, which hosts church on Sundays, multiple Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. They have a fire alarm system that's not even hooked up. So what that means is if there's a fire on a sleep out or a camp out, and I go and pull the fire alarm, guess who's coming? Nobody's coming. Nobody is coming to that. The senior center, how many people, does anybody here utilize the senior center? Upstairs at the senior center, they have brand new exit lights. And when you shut the breaker off to the lights, because when the power goes out, the lights are supposed to work. They all go out. So which means if there's a power loss or a fire there, the exit lights, none of them are going to work.
Is that because there are no batteries, or?
They're brand new.
The batteries are down?
The batteries could be down. They could be installed incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not really upset that you guys appointed a new fire marshal. I have always said I'm not out to look for anybody's job, but I'm out for compliance and safety of the people that live in my town. I really think you guys are doing a disservice to this town. And you're lucky that nothing has happened. I've also got a list of 3 family houses which are supposed to be inspected annually, and I guarantee, I have phone numbers, I'll call a couple of them, that they've never been inspected. And really?
Excuse me?
Yes.
What kind of inspection are you talking about?
I'm talking about a fire safety inspection.
Okay.
So in 3 families, you need to check, they have working smoking alarms. The doors shut to the exit ways.
Sure.
Very, if it's up to par, it'll work. If you haven't done a job description, which if it's when Blaine was in, and he's been it for 30 years, it's probably before even fire code was really out. It's very outdated, but you really need to go to Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 541, 29305, and 29306. And like I said, I am making this a formal complaint. You guys need to take care of this stuff. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming forward.
Thank you.
Okay, further public participation.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes,
Bill?
That's a lot.
Bill Tower.
Bill.
I'm sorry, Bill Towers.
Do you happen to have an extra copy of what you gave to the gentleman? I'd like it for the record, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, for you?
Yes, please. Because they're probably out for you. Thank you.
Okay, there's no more public participation. We'll go on to board and commission resignations and appointments. Since this is a new board, let me say that last week, I would say I'd entertain a motion, and then some people would move and some people wouldn't, so it's kind of tedious. And so does anybody want to just read each person and make the motion to appoint them, or would you like me to do that? Do I have a volunteer to read, make the motion?
I move to accept the resignation of Richard P. Pippin III from the Police Commission with regret.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And Jason, you want to just run through them?
Sure. I move to appoint Mark Weldon as an alternate member of the American Heritage River Commission for a term expiring November 1st, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I apologize, I don't have a second.
Second.
Okay.
I'll speak up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Jason?
I move to appoint David King as a regular member to the Board of Assessment Appeals for a term expiring November 5th, 2019.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to appoint Kirk Monstream as a regular member. I move to appoint Kirk Monstream as a constable for a term expiring November 19th, 2019.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
I move to appoint Robert Slate as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term expiring November 19th, 2019.
okay. Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and for the Police Commission, we have 2 candidates, and we've heard people speak for Darren Long, and he was recommended by the chairman of the Republican Town Committee. So, does anyone, I would entertain a motion to appoint Darren Long.
Before we do that,
Go ahead.
could we ask if there's anybody who would like to speak in favor of Ms. Safford?
Sure. Is there anybody?
wants to speak in favor of Ms. Safford?
How about Miss Stafford?
Hey!
So, hi to the Board of Selectmen and to the town. I am making my splash into town politics. I moved to town about a year and a half ago. I am a business person. I work for Travelers Insurance. I'm analytic, and I do business intelligence for a living. What made me want to run for the Police Commission is that I have a strong passion for public safety, and as a woman that lives alone in town, this is something that is a strong drive for me to make sure and ensure that we have the proper oversight, that we have oversight over the police department, and that we're providing our police department with what they need to do their jobs and do it well. So I know that I don't know any of you, and so I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself, and really, you know, I know heard great things. I know Darren Long, I don't even know who you are, but you've been on the commission for a long time. I know this, and I'm, you know, challenging you as, you know, someone who would like to run, but this is really one of my passions, is really the public safety, and it's becoming this town. You know, I moved here because I chose to live here as an adult. I have friends that are here and wasn't born and raised here. And this is a place where I want to make my home, and I want to participate in town government. So this is my first.
Well, thank you for standing up. Thank you for filling out the form. I'd say we have openings on other commissions, and I would encourage you to get involved.
There were definitely other ones.
Yeah, economic development sounds like, we need economic development people,
Okay.
so that would be great, but there's a lot of other commissions. And do come into the office and look at what we have, and I'm glad you stood up and introduced yourself.
Sounds good.
Yes?
Is there Long here to speak? Is he here to speak?
Yep.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay.
Okay.
I was on the police commission for 2 years.
Oh, you're on there now?
No, I'm not right now. That was 2 years ago. I had to replace somebody, who won the election in
Okay.
2013. And I was on for 2 years. And ran again. I lost, like you said, quite a few votes. So, but I, again, being in the fire department from Southlands, many years until I moved here. You know, I think the police department's important, and the things that they do, and making sure they're doing a good job is what I want. Make sure they're doing what needs to be done for the people in town.
So I'd entertain a motion to nominate somebody. Does anybody want to nominate anybody? Steve?
I'm going to make a motion to nominate Darren Long, the Police Commission, the term expiring 11/19/2019.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. Yes?
The reason I did that was because he was picked by the Republican Party, and I felt he's the one that should have got on there.
Okay, I'll say I'm sorry I can't appoint 2, but, so is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Darren, you're the Police Commission. All right, unfinished business, the 250th anniversary. We have no chair for you.
I'm good. All right, so we have flyers here from the Masquerade Ball, and on the flip side is our most up-to-date calendar of all of our 2018 events. There's 3 copies left. I can make more if people would like some. Also, we have our calendar currently being printed. They will be on sale for $15, hopefully this upcoming weekend, if not next week.
Where will they be available for sale?
They will be available for sale at the Broderick Library, the Warehouse Point Library, as well as the Town Hall, and then any events that we have for the 250th anniversary. Especially the Masquerade Ball.
Yeah.
Better in January than September for the calendar.
Yeah, we're gonna try to sell them soon. We only have 200 of them, so if you want one, get one as soon as they come out.
200 calendars?
Yeah, we only ordered 200 of them.
There's also 200 tickets for the Masquerade Ball.
Correct, and there's about close to 100 that have been sold so far, so we got 100 left.
And if you want to buy a ticket, how do we go about it?
Just send me an email or call the note. It's on the flyer, and we will get you guys a ticket.
Okay. Tickets are $95 a
Yep,
person.
$95 per person for the 5-hour open bar, food, dance, fun time, and there'll also be a raffle with some really good prizes. So,
Okay.
so grab a calendar, or events and everything else.
We're on to the next agenda item, which is the Casino Impact Fund. And I think we'll generalize it just to talk about the casino a little bit. This week, or last week, I'm not sure which, the state of Connecticut joined the tribal nations in suing the Department of the Interior and the Commissioner Zinke to sign the change to the agreement with the state. So that's good to have the state representatives on our side. They described it as a kind of a contest between the Nevada representatives and the Connecticut representatives, because Las Vegas is in Nevada, as is MGM. Also, I went down and visited the public safety and surveillance area in Mohegan Sun, which, of course, the Mohegan Sun is much bigger than our casino is going to be. And that's a destination casino where ours isn't. So they're different. So, but still, it was interesting to go down and talk to the person in charge of safety down there. They have surveillance everywhere. I think one person said they can see the deer in the woods, so they keep track of them. But they said when they are here, they'll have cameras everywhere, and they'll have a room with surveillance room. And if a police needs a video, it takes them about 40 minutes to give them a video, so they can get video pretty quickly out of that. Also, last week, or last meeting, I misspoke, and when they come to do demolition of the old Showcase Cinema, we'll get a demolition permit from the building department, and that would only be about probably $5,000 to $10,000, I believe, in that range. I threw out a figure of $230,000, but I think that's more for either the, I'm not sure what that's for. It could have been the all the construction permits that are taking place, because there's a Calamar that's being built also, or just being considered. That's a large permit that costs to produce that, and also the casino. So I don't know where I got that number of $230,000 from, but when they demolish the showcase, it'll bring us about $5,000 to $10,000. I'm not sure exactly, depending on the cost of the demolition. Also, I got a feeling when I went down there that they're really thinking, hopefully, to start the demolition in the beginning of October, but they're saying probably by the end of October. So I misspoke, January. So very soon we should start to see things happen down there.
Does it appear as if they're going to go ahead, even with litigation ongoing?
Yes, definitely. They're kind of ignoring that. They also, just as I was talking to the security people, they said Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights are the nights when they have the most people, and they really don't expect too much need for the police, but when they need the police, they like them to be there, and they're giving us $3 million a year to kind of help with the impact of the casino here in East Windsor. And they said that they'll probably bring, and I'm not sure exactly, again, I think it was 5,000 to 10,000 people a day will come in. And whenever you have people coming in, you're going to have maybe minor accidents, and there's always some problems. So there will be definitely a need for some more police, and we're going to look into that a little further. But that's all I wanted to really say about the casino and the Casino Impact Fund tonight. Is anybody else want to?
Well, at the last meeting, we talked about looking at a methodology for auditing the various proposals from departments and organizations in town. Charlie and I sat down and put together an outline that I'd like to hand out and have people look at. And at the next meeting, maybe we could discuss it. It is imperfect, and we would like to have comments so we can make it better.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
This is kind of the start of trying to determine exactly where the money will need to go and when it should start and those kinds of things. But we have to have some type of a plan here to get to that, and someone that not only ourselves in looking at the request, but an independent source to be able to look at it as well and give us feedback and what they believe.
The outline we provided here talks about an internal audit, which would be us, and an external audit, which would be a company we hire to do an independent audit, and then we would integrate the two into the best understanding we can. I think if you have something as complex as this, you have to have a schedule for it. You have to lay out all the milestones, and you have to put a schedule down. Now, I started on a schedule for that. It isn't done, but I would like to hand out a typical schedule for something I did for the Economic Development Commission, the small business organization we were going to establish. And again, I'd like to have you take a look at it. It's only format, but I think that for anything that we go forward on that is complex and lengthy, we absolutely have to have a plan for it, or else we'll fall flat on our face. We won't know where we are or how we're going to get there, and that's wrong. So if you'll take a look at that, we'd appreciate it. Now, in addition to that, Charlie and I took a look at possible companies that might help us with the external audit. And these are just ideas, but I'd like to throw them out. And I don't have a handout because it's not really worth having a handout. Charlie found a company on the internet that may be worth looking at, a graph consulting group, and it's out in the Midwest. Got suggestions from people to use PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a very large concern and probably pretty expensive. We also got a recommendation to use BDO, which is a large consulting company. It's in Stamford, Connecticut. They have an office in Stamford. PricewaterhouseCoopers has an office in Hartford, which is more convenient. I also talked to people at the Office of Policy and Management, a fellow named Bill Plummer, who is going to look for me. But in order to look for me, he would like a copy of that document I just handed out. I don't see anything wrong with giving him that right now. It may not be perfect, but Bill will go off and do some thinking and some research to come up with names of companies that might help us. And I think we should go do that. In addition to that, I've talked to CBIA, the people in Connecticut Business and Industry Association, Peter Joya, and Peter gave me the name of a company in downstate Connecticut. The fellow that is the primary partner in that company, his name is Don Kempler Smith, and he's been in business for a long time, and I asked him for a credentials paper, which he sent me by email. He's willing to come up here and give us a 1 hour, over an hour presentation, slide presentation, and answer all questions that we might have about our task. I'd like to have you look at this. There's a little bit of a problem. He is a retiring guy. He only works 20 hours a week rather, and he goes to Florida for the winter. So our window is reasonably short for getting him up here. He would charge us about $1,250 to come.
Just to come and talk to
Just to come and talk to us. That's a lot of money to talk about. However, we have to start someplace and get an understanding. There are probably other professionals out there like him. He has really fine credentials, not necessarily in what we're trying to do, but he has been in very influential positions here in the state of Connecticut. And it might be worth having someone like that, him, come here. We have to do it before Christmas, so it's a short fuse. I'm going to hand these out, and please take a look at them. And I would like to, again, ask the board to let me send him a copy of that document, that outline I handed out. I talked to him for probably half an hour. I think he understands, but a piece of paper in front of you is better than listening. The thing I'd like to do is to ask the board to consider whether we should bring him up here or not. And I know that it's not reasonable to ask you to look at this thing tonight. And Bob, frankly, as a new kid on the block, I don't know what action we can take in order to get him here. I don't know whether you can do it unilaterally or whether the board has to approve it. I don't know if that's the case. We have to have a special meeting, and I don't know those things. But the first thing we have to decide is whether he is the kind of person we want to talk to. And after that, we have to move reasonably promptly to get him here. He brings his own gear. We require nothing. He brings everything from his projector to his projector cable, and he will need a screen. But other than that, he's kind of a self-contained presentation.
I hear what you're saying. What thought that came to my mind was maybe we could do it over Skype or something, or maybe a conference call, and maybe he could email us the slides that he has. So maybe we could do half of without costing us so much money. Also, at one point, I guess we did have a person come and talk to us about doing just about what you're considering.
Okay.
And maybe we should talk in more detail about what it is we're looking for here. This person too, he was a type of person, it was from CCM, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, and they too provide personnel, and so that would be another source we could look at. And he would do contracting work and go into a situation and try to analyze it, and that's what he had a resume of doing. He didn't know a lot about casinos, so but I, having even gone down to look at Mohegan Sun, I don't think it's, I think you can, but you'll have to, as far as security is concerned, I think that you can get a handle on that pretty good. We have planning we want to do in town, so that's another nugget. And then we have human services that would deal with addiction and other problems that might come with the casino. So there's the school system, so there's other areas that I don't know if any, well, somebody would have to be an expert in the casino impact to really understand that. So I would open this up for discussion. Other people have ideas, thoughts?
Well, I think it's a good idea that, if we could find the funds to have, come so that we would have a benchmark as to the next one that we have come, how do they compare? Because I think, we talked before about having a bidders conference where you invite, several to come and tell us what you can do. I think, just stepping back a second, the document that had handed out, I see no problem in sending it to them, so, or to anybody that, we're interested in, so that you have some more knowledge than just that phone conversation, which you forget half of when you're finished with that. So I'm good with that, but I think we need just a few days to digest this and read through this, and I'm thinking like a week from today, that if we could have a quick meeting to just decide what it is that we want to do, having the issue with the person leaving the area for a while.
So that's a good idea. I think we should tonight make a motion to allow you and Andy to send this out to really anyone you want to send it to.
There'd be 2 people right now. And I also talked to the Dean of School of Engineering of Business at the University of Connecticut, and one of his professors that might have some expertise in this area, and they're going to do some looking. But again, I want to send them the best piece of paper we have. Now the question, insofar as Don is concerned, we have to get it out reasonably soon. So what we have is, I think, what we're going to send out. Same thing. Plumber is another thing. He's going to be there, and we could wait until we get a better document. But I really do think our document there, take a look at it, is good enough to go out and get someone to tell us these are the right kind of people.
Okay. Further discussion? Yes.
So have you guys talked at all to Mahoney and Sobel?
No.
So they're the town's auditor, and I'm just wondering if there's any conflict in the contract we have with them for this? I'm also wondering if have you looked at what the town's bid policies or RFP policies are in terms of...
In town?
Yeah, in terms of making sure we're soliciting this in accordance to those policies?
No, I'm just starting on that, Jason. Bob got me 2 or 3 outlines, or not outlines, but RFPs that I've looked at.
But did you look at the policy?
No, I did not, but I will. I did look at the outlines that were provided. They were from Lynn Norton's organization, and they go out with an RFP. So I do have some feel for what the nature of the RFPs are. I did not look at policy, but I should do that.
My concern is just that the whole purpose of, as you know, because you did this professionally, but the whole purpose of going out for an RFP is to make sure that kind of the fix is not in, and to, not that I'm saying that's what the case is here, but I'm saying there's a perception that there are 2 names that showed up, and I don't know where the 2 names came from and what the background is, and that's why those policies are there. And one other point that escaped me at the moment.
Well, I think
you guys talk about benchmarks and trying to have a place to start, but we have professional staff in town who, over the course of 14 months, have done extensive research. Is that being at all considered, or is that just being
Yes, we would
completely
certainly use any resources we have here in town for sure. That comes for nothing, and that's a good price.
And it's already done.
Absolutely.
So in the interest of time, that's something that is currently just sitting on a shelf
Yeah.
collecting dust.
We would absolutely look at any resources we have here in town, and I was not smart enough to look at policy, to make sure we don't step on our own toes, and I will do that right away.
I think funding is another problem. We can't really spend money we haven't appropriated. So I think this isn't going to, it's good that we'll meet next week and push it forward. We got to push it forward.
I will not be able to meet before Christmas. I will not be able to do that.
Well, you don't have to be there, but we can keep you in the loop in any way that we can, so.
Keeping me in the loop doesn't get my vote recorded, but I'm getting married in like 12 or 15 days. That is much more my priority than this.
Okay.
You guys can all tell Alex I said that.
You're sure about that?
Yes.
If you reconsider.
By the way, the audit that we're looking at, it's probably not the most descriptive term. This is not going to be a financial audit like the town auditors are doing. This is more on process, procedure, etc., to determining equipment needs, personnel needs. That's not what the town auditors do.
Yes, it is. They do the financials as well, but they also do our policies and procedures. And I think Andy mentioned PricewaterhouseCoopers.
They go out and do that on site.
Yep, and PricewaterhouseCoopers is actually somebody who has...
Well, we'll put them into the mix.
Hold on, please. PricewaterhouseCoopers has been a direct competitor when we have gone out to bid for town audit function. So Mahoney Sobel, who we already have a contract with, is a direct competitor of somebody who's already...
That's a good input. If we already have somebody on contract, it would make good sense and save some time if they have the expertise to do this job, this kind of job. And as Charlie was saying, maybe auditing is really a bad term. What we're looking for is the correct methodology for evaluating the accuracy of the proposals being submitted by town organizations. I think we should hire a company to help us do that, one. Two, we should do an internal audit. We're smart enough to do that. We may get some things wrong, but we're smart enough to go out and ask a lot of good questions. And if you meld the two of them together, we may even get the right answer. So that's a good input that we have. And you think that our auditing company has that kind of background and capability?
I think that because we have a contract with them, it would be important to ask them.
I'm going to do that for sure. I will find out how to contact them, and I will give them a copy of the same document that I'm going to send out to the other people. This is all preliminary kind of stuff, but it's a step. I don't want to make it a step backward.
Okay, is there further discussion?
Bob?
Yes.
There's a piece of public record that should be added to this. On October 31st, 2017, MGM Resorts Global Development purchased a single-family home at 57 Prospect Hill Drive.
Yes.
That's important that everybody's aware of that. They're going to be on site.
Well, in 57 Prospect Hill Drive I'm going to just say it's probably about a quarter to half a mile away. It's in the, so it's not really on Route 5, but you're right.
Oh, no.
And I don't have any idea what they're doing with that house.
I bet you $1 they thought it was Prospect Hill Road.
Yep.
They made a mistake. Prospect Hill Road.
Well, or they want to put somebody close by.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, I would entertain a motion to allow Andy and to put out this casino impact audit write-up to anybody he would like to send it to. Somebody want to make that motion, or do you want me to make it?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Andy, you in favor?
Yeah, I am.
Jason?
No.
Okay. A motion passes. Okay, further discussion about the casino or the casino impact fund?
I'd just like to say, we have time to do it right. But I think the process of getting a company like this on board is probably a 3 or 4 month process just to get them on board. By the time you write the RFP, scrub it, go out with an RFI, have a bidders conference like Charlie was talking about, and then get it out and give them 1 month to respond, which is probably a reasonable period of time. That you're probably talking, if we step out, we are probably on this activity in early January. We're probably talking about early June before we would be prepared to go forward. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, we'll try to go as fast as we can. Hopefully, we'll see how fast it'll coalesce. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is setting the Board of Selectmen meeting dates. And in your package, we have the meeting dates, which we're going to change our meeting till Thursday, so instead of Tuesday nights, it'll be the first and third Thursday of the month for 2018. Any discussion on the dates that were in the package?
Jason, that fits your schedule?
Actually, quite well. Quite well.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to accept these dates.
Make a motion.
No, second.
Okay, all those in, well, no further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now, we'll go on to new business, and the first person is Albert Grant to talk about the Conservation Commission. So, Albert? Want to go up here, or?
I'm good here, I guess.
Okay.
And my commission members are here as well. I'm the chairman of the Conservation Commission in town. It's the conservation is the counter to the development. In the plan of conservation development, we have development and conservation, and so it's our task to evaluate properties in town as far as and advise according to what is good to preserve and conserve. And in this case, we have a large amount of agricultural land in town, which is some of the best in the world. We have great climate, adequate water, good soil, good drainage, and everything. And so we feel it's important to preserve the best property in town that's for farming. And that's mostly driven by soil type and proximity to other farmland. And so to that end, we've over the years ranked properties as far as their attributes for agricultural value, and we've also ranked properties for conservation value for other types. But this town's been working for the last couple of years to try to preserve a property which is becoming close to the end of negotiations. It's a 100+ acre property, which is about 80 acres or so has been in farming and is tilled, and about 30 acres is Scannick River frontage. So it's one of our highest ranking properties as far as soil type and drainage and proximity to other farmland. And so that's going to cost us a bit of money for an agricultural easement on the property. And so we're looking to bolster up our open space fund. After that's done, we're going to probably spend most of our money that we've accumulated over the last 30 years or so through development, set-asides, fees in lieu of property, and other sources for accumulating money in our open space fund. So I think it's valuable to be able to entertain other prospects should they come up, although there's nothing on the radar right now, but you never know when a large, significant, important property is going to come up, and we need to have commitment for the funding to respond to it. And it's our position that the best way to direct development in town to conserving farmland is to use agricultural easements. So an easement is entering into an agreement to preserve the development rights and leave the property itself in the hands of a farmer or somebody that will use it. And so if we partner with the state and another entity, then we get a good outcome for a small amount of money, because it amounts to the development rights are half of the value of the property, and we partner with 25% matching, which a lot of the programs require 25% matching, then we're reserving the property for 1/8 of the value of the property, which is pretty good. And it still remains in the hands of somebody who pays taxes and produces a product from it. So
This would be tax-bearing?
tax-bearing, yeah. It would not be, the town would not own the property, just help to have the state own the development rights. And the state has the facility to enforce that. The town could also buy easements. You would have to formulate the language to do that and take the responsibility of enforcement.
Albert, how would this fit in with the Northern Connecticut Land Trust? They do the same kind of thing on a wider horizon.
The land trust pretty much owns property, and towns are better off owning easements, in my opinion. The way things work.
Is that tax-bearing their property, or
No.
they're not-for-profit?
They're not for profit, and the land trust owns the property, and they maintain it.
So the disadvantage there is some tax-bearing property would go away.
Go away, correct.
It would be
Also-
preserved, but it would go away as a tax-bearing property.
Right, and so if you preserve a property, you need somebody to take care of it. That's a big issue, especially if you have farmland. And the land trust is not really equipped to take care of farmland unless we rent it to somebody. And that's not a problem. It hasn't ever been a problem to do that. But towns have taxes, and it's the main enforcement mechanism that they have to keep development from happening. The land trust, on the other hand, has a problem enforcing easements. If the land trust owns property, they have to maintain it and monitor it every year, and then have legal fees to defend it, and it's a problem.
This would be irrevocable. You would never be able to build on it, is that correct? The easement would be such that you could not build on it.
The biggest program is the over 30-acre parcel USDA program. It's a state administered and is reimbursed by the USDA, and that allows for one house on a piece of property, so the farmer can live there and farm it. So the only development that's possible is one house on a piece of property. It's a deed restriction, it's not subdividable. Conservation easements are another thing. That's just an agreement to not develop the property in any way. And that's they're a little bit harder to partner with somebody on a conservation easement, because the USDA was promoting farmland, and it's mostly soil type based. But the DEEP has a matching program for buying property for like Scannick River Bank or natural resource properties or otherwise significant. That's a purchase. So it's a 40 to 60% matching program for the purchase of property, which is good too, but easements seem like a better tool for a town to direct development.
And how much money, Albert, is that you're looking for? What is that?
Well, we have an open space fund that I think is around $220,000 that we've accumulated over the last at least 30 years. And so it just kind of dribbles in. It's been used for some small parcels in the past. This is the first major purpose the town has undertaken for a large piece of property. So
is there any state or federal aid possible for something like that?
The state's kicking in about 3/4.
Yeah.
The state's kicking in about 3/4.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So we're basically paying 1/8 of the value of the property. And half of that is being, another farmer will buy the property from the seller to the seller.
Any chance of going to some other organization like the Hartford Institute for Public Giving to get money? That the Connecticut Land Trust, they did a good job. They used to get a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
They were able to tap that fund about every other year because of a very fine relationship the president had with one of the people at that organization.
You're speaking of land trust?
Yeah.
Yeah. Land trusts and towns are different. Municipalities, and I don't know how they operate. My guess is that they would be more apt to fund nonprofits than a municipality, but I'm not sure at all.
And that's probably right.
And there's other sources too, but I think it would behooves the town to maintain an open space fund that's able to respond to opportunities that would benefit the town by directing development where it's most appropriate, I guess.
Is there something that you have in writing so that we could study it? It sounds interesting, and it sounds like...
I wrote in your packet, there should be a statement that outlines the 3 programs that...
Oh, okay, all right.
Is the state
There's not going to be a
buying,
lot of information on the specifics of this because it's an active real estate transaction, and it's protected from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. The concern is that because the state is involved in this, you don't want, the state would not want to know, would not want the public to know what they're paying, because a developer could come in and scoop up the best of the best farmland at a different price than the state or the municipality could pay. So it's protected from disclosure until the deal is done.
Mostly I'm worried about if this project comes to fruition, then we need to build up our open space fund again. And I think by just, if development is not happening at a fast pace now, it'll be a long time before we build that fund up again. And it's not a great time for developing property right now too, so there are opportunities to, to buy easements.
is the state just buying development rights from the farmers without even getting the town involved? Are they still doing that?
No, they require a 25% match at this point.
Because they used to do it.
They used to, they used to not require.
The farmer could sell his development rights.
Yep.
But they don't do that anymore.
Not without town participation.
Not without the town.
It's just because everybody's strapped for money. And there's also there's another program, is the Community Farms Grant Program, and that's for properties under 30 acres that are engaged in food production, food and fiber production. And that's smaller scale, that's for small scale farms. So that's another opportunity. That's funding might be a little bit more difficult, the state budget and everything for that program, but still does exist, and good one. Also requires a 25% match, and it also requires could require some appraisal fees and some other things to move in negotiations of properties. But
how do they determine the value of the land?
the state does the appraisal and sets the price, so they formulate the deal.
The state does 2 appraisals, so you have a high and a low, and then that gives you the negotiation range, but it's determined by negotiation. And then it's reviewed by the State Properties Review Board and approved by the Attorney General's office.
So I just want to implant the idea anyway that we may use up our open space fund if we want to keep directing development towards Route 5 and North Road, and we want to keep the rural areas rural and the farmland contiguous, because it's important to have a lot of farmland that's contiguous in order to have a viable agricultural business. You need to have property. Agriculture doesn't use much in town services. It's pretty much goes on its own, and is a benefit to the town, appearance-wise and product-wise. And in 50 years from now, we're going to be wanting to have food that's not trucked from Florida and California. And more crucial as population increases.
How do you pick which farmer you're going to do this with? Is there a lottery?
Well, you can't buy something that's not for sale. So it's totally driven by if somebody makes an offer, and then you see if that works out. We have a criteria for evaluating properties comparatively, mostly based on water and soil, and proximity to other farmland is the major drivers. But it's pretty rigorous criteria that the state uses to divide development rights. It's not just anything. It has to be something of value. So,
well, if I could just add another resource, what we've been working on for years with Lori's help, I mean, I give her all the credit in the world for this. Excuse me. We put in our 2 cents as a commission for, to get some of this information that now is a document that the town should, as a resource that you were looking for. We got to follow this at some point. Casino, or if it's going to be 1 million stories high, take that if they're out of variance zoning money or something, let them buy out of their zoning with a big project like that and put it all into the land preservation in this town on the other end. I mean, I think that's super important. You got the sewer, you got the main roads, you got everything down there. You know, let a development come in and take charge of that and overdo it, but you gotta keep in mind the balance of the, you know, the precious land in the town. So just keep that in mind, and definitely another resource.
Lauren.
Lori Whitten, town planner, just for the record. Just for a point of clarification, the open space funds are collected with every subdivision lot. And so if an applicant proposes to do a fee in lieu of open space, we collect $2,000 per lot. That's how we've collected the money, $2,000 at a time. So by utilizing these open space funds for a large piece of property, you know, in one foul swoop, will be down to almost nothing. So that took probably over 13 years to accumulate. So I think what Albert's getting at is it would be really great if even the town could perhaps put a little bit of money in every year to the open space fund. I've suggested this even just for grants in the past, just because we never have a match, but you know, it's important to preserve these farms. It's one of the main goals of this community, is to preserve the farmland. And that's our only means of resource to do it.
So the development fund really is supplied by open space funding from developers, and the town, you're saying, could give some money. Is there any other, and you were saying that maybe zoning variances?
A lot of towns use bonding by open space. All of our surrounding towns have commitments to bond for projects when they come up, and so the money, and I don't, not my department, financial's not my department, but as I understand it, it's a commitment to bond for projects should they come up, so you're not spending the money, but you're committing a certain amount of money to use should it be necessary.
One of the things we could do in that regard is we could take a portion of whatever we pay off in debt service every year and commit that to new bonding for open space and farmland.
You take advantage of the debt schedule, which goes up and down as I understand.
Yeah, we're at a low point, I think. But there's opportunity there to maintain that static level of debt service and take what would be the savings and apply it towards something like that.
Yeah,
all for a $0 impact.
Right, just something. Even if it was 5,000 a year, it's more than nothing. You know, just something. Keep it alive, because the land is not going to be, once it's dug up in a house or a building, you know, it's not coming back.
I have to ask this question. You said that down in the Scantic area, it's one of the best soil types. What's one of the best soil types?
Prime and important soil, and it's we have a GIS layer for that. So if you want to look at an area, you can just see that when it's green, is prime and important soil, which is well drained and fertile. Basically, it's drainage is a big thing.
Soil types are defined and scored by the Natural Resource Conservation Service through the USDA, and there are 4 principal types. There's prime farmland, statewide important, locally important, and unique, and they're in that descending order. So prime farmland soils are the best you can get.
That's done by soil analysis, is it?
Yeah, there are soil scientists who work for the federal government who map every parcel in the country, actually. And they have their maps available on their website. I was just playing with it today. And it's a great way of trying to identify where it makes sense to develop and where it does not make sense to develop. And they actually get into finer soil classifications, like, and they all have names associated with towns, in our case, towns in the area. So there's a Branford, which is a reddish soil. There's a Broadbrook, which is a little bit more pebbly. And they have, I don't know, there's dozens of these qualifications, and a soil scientist can actually take a look at the soil and the subsoil and tell you within a pretty reasonable range where that soil is from.
It sounds like it's pretty finely divided. They really do a pretty extensive analysis.
It is amazing to see somebody with that training do it.
You know, I mean, it's here, it doesn't change, so it says, when they study it, they get knowledge and it's static, so it's not like population or things that change.
So that's been the only source, is through the subdivision money that they're getting?
So in fees in lieu of, yeah, it used to be popular to take a piece of property in a subdivision until everybody realized that those were kind of not
Okay.
worth much. Fee in lieu of is.
Does anybody know how that got started?
Planning and zoning, there's their option to.
Planning and zoning.
Is their option to take a fee in lieu of if it's not a good fit for the set-aside offers. And sometimes developers would rather pay the fee and get more lots.
Well, I'm just thinking on the commercial side of the business, that why would there be something there to charge? Does any other town do that?
Fee in lieu of?
Yeah.
Yeah, every town, pretty much. I think.
With the commercial side as well?
I
Not just
don't know,
subdivisions?
it's not my department, but I would assume that they would.
Sorry, so with the subdivision, with the residential subdivision, we require the open space, it's not required for commercial developments.
But it could be.
Suppose it could be.
Does anybody do that, do you know?
I assume they do, but I don't know of any offhand.
Okay.
But just to throw one more thing, I think, and I don't know all the details of it, when Walmart went where Walmart is, there was some kind of conservation agreement to exchange for the plot that they were at to make some changes. They took some monies to kind of make their situation better, and they made another part of town better in general. So, like I said, with this whole casino thing, maybe part of that audit would be a great thing to have some kind of some negotiation, where they're gonna go.
The transfer of development rights is the term for that. You look up transfer of development rights and
something to keep
state
in that.
zoning practice, where you take buy an indulgence from in one part of town and buy forgiveness in the other part of town.
That's kind of the same concept, but the Walmart was actually a mitigation for wetlands. They were filling them and agreed to relocate them and to find them elsewhere. So, but it is kind of the same concept though.
Yeah.
To transfer the development rights.
I have a question. The land over there where that schoolhouse was, that was left.
Griffin Hill?
Yeah, that was left for open space by the developer. Instead of paying the money, now we sold that piece of land,
$35,000.
right? And that would have equaled the amount of the, I guess, the lots that were there. That's what that totaled up to be. Did that 35,000 go into this, this fund?
Should have.
Should have.
Well,
I'm
someone
not
ought to check
aware
on
about
it,
that.
because that's where it should have went. It should have went into that money to preserve land.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it.
I guess that's it, thank you.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is the 250th Anniversary Commission. Their commission expires 12/19, so we have to,
Committee,
yeah, the committee.
not a commission.
Oh, it's committee, not a commission.
Is it a committee? If it's a committee.
We're supposed to be a committee. We're a committee.
That's what I said. We're a committee, we say a committee.
Yeah.
The distinction is that a committee sunsets, a commission has to be repealed.
The committee ends in 18 months, correct?
Yeah.
Not more than 18 months.
18 months.
Yeah, I think this, well, actually, I don't know if the term commission or committee really
because I'm reading here that you can have a special temporary committee which has an end date of 18 months, and that's what this is.
Yeah, it's a committee, not a commission.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
important.
Okay. So we have to reestablish the anniversary committee. You're right. So I would entertain a motion to reestablish the 250th anniversary committee for 18 months.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Who moved? Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those
Are we reestablishing are we renewing the commission, I'm sorry, the committee, or are we also reappointing the membership?
Both.
well, first we have to renew the commission.
Okay, committee.
Committee. We'll renew the committee. And then at the next meeting, we'll renew the membership. So this meeting, we just established the committee, renew the committee. Okay, so all those in favor of renewing the committee?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. And now, the next agenda item is fire protection. And I put out something on the table that I wanted to just talk about and keep in front of us, because this is kind of like a long-term project we have here. Vic DeCapula wrote a very good memo to us November 8th, 2017, and really kind of went through the history of how we got to where we are. And where we are is to have a fire district taxing the Warehouse Point Fire residents and taxpayers, and then the town funding the Broadbrook Fire Department, so the people living in the Warehouse Point Fire District are paying for both fire departments, where the people living in Broadbrook are just paying for the Broadbrook, or it's really not Warehouse Point taxpayers. So that's one problem. And actually this morning when I was thinking about it, I wrote up something that's in your pack, in those folders that I put out. And I kind of did some analysis, and this is what I said. I said the town's taxpayers pay for the cost of the town's fire protection. That's the way it is. In the future, the town will have paid full-time firefighters, and currently the town's fire protection is not equally funded. That's the way I see it. And conclusions I drew from that were that the town's taxpayers will always pay for the cost of the town's fire protection. The most cost-effective way to handle paid firefighters is to have one fire department. If East Windsor has one fire department, that would solve the problem of inequity in fire protection. And possible ways to create one fire department is to make East Windsor one fire district. You could contract with the Warehouse Point Fire District to provide fire protection for all of East Windsor. That's another option I thought of, and probably is a bad one. Another one might be you could rent all the Warehouse Point Fire District's assets and let the town provide fire protection. But this isn't all the possible solutions. I'm just throwing these out as a possibility. I think we have to start focusing on how we're going to resolve this fire funding and fire protection problem. And then if we're not willing to, and I think down the road we're going to have to be forced into it. Maybe it's 5-10 years from now, but I think we're going to be forced into more or less one fire department. But maybe Enfield has 5 or 6, so I guess maybe that could be inevitable. I mean, we don't have to do that. But ways to achieve equitable funding is to put the Warehouse Point Fire District back into our current budget for amount equal to the amount that we have in our budget for the Broadbrook Fire Department. That would at least equalize the amount the town's paying to both fire departments. And that's what Vic's emails or memo suggested that we do on a short-term basis anyway. We could also establish a district, a taxing district for Broadbrook to fund their fire department. So just a discussion, I'm just throwing out ideas, and we'll have to, and I'll keep this on the agenda more or less. I think before we had agenda items that we put an asterisk on, and that would mean they're on the agenda, but we're not going to deal with it in this meeting. So I think we should come back when we get more ideas. I meant to go to the Warehouse Point Fire District yesterday, but I didn't feel that well, so I didn't attend their commission meeting. Another thing in the packet was a memo that was written by John Burnham in October 25th, 2016, a little over a year ago. And this was, we had a fire commission committee, and it was voted 8-1 to try to establish one fire district for the entire town. And then it went to the Board of Selectmen then, and that's the last page that I showed. And a motion was made by Dale Nelson to endorse and support the recommendation presented by the East Windsor Fire Protection final report, and it was not seconded by anybody. And I was part of that, and in hindsight, I wished I had seconded it just to have a vote and discussion, but I didn't do it. And so that was the conclusion come by that district, that committee we had formed a year ago. So those are just ideas I threw out, and I think, like I say, it'll be on future agendas. We'll talk more about it, talk to the fire departments, see what we can do. Any thoughts or ideas or discussion?
Everybody knows where I stand.
Yeah. But you seem to be listening to...
I'm listening, but I still am holding firm.
Mm-hmm.
I thought from the meeting we had last time, the consensus was that we would have a meeting sometime in December solely for that purpose, to discuss what ways this could be done. And then following that would be a meeting with the heads of the fire departments.
That would
and I think
be an approach.
You devote the time to really study this, and we're not going to do it right here, right now.
No.
It should be a meeting solely for that, and that's what I thought we agreed on.
Okay. I don't know if we agree, but that sounds good to me.
And once we do that, we should make a decision and move on. You know, I think this question has been on the table for 2 or 3 years anyway, hasn't it?
Yes. Yes, it has. I don't know if we can make a decision and move on. I think if you have a problem and you decide not to solve it, it's still a problem.
Yeah.
So if we can find a solution, that's great. But if we don't find a solution, I don't think we should just ignore the problem. So.
But can't we take the best solution?
Or even a solution would be
Yeah.
fair. Now I don't feel that we have a solution. I don't think it's an equitable taxing situation. And I think, and that's why we need more talk and more ideas. I don't say I have the answers. But when I said that because we're going to hire full-time firefighters, we kind of need one department because, well, what would you do? Would you have, because it would take, and again, the fire department knows more than I do with each fire department. My understanding is you need 3 firefighters to man a truck. And so with that, if the town could man 1 truck with 3 firefighters, that would be a lot less than manning 2 trucks with 6. And if having both fire departments ready to go, it might be a time when we have to do that. But if we could hire 3 firefighters and even have them in maybe different fire departments depending on what the demand is. But also, I should think you need 1 fire chief for the entire town rather than paying for 2. So I don't know. there's more questions that I have than answers, but I do think we should not forget about it, that's all.
I think the special meeting that Charlie talked about is important. That way we can at least focus on what the issues are and how best to talk about each one and eliminate each one and come up with a better solution. Probably not the best, but a better solution.
Okay, further discussion?
Mr. Selectman?
Yes.
Good. 50 Capitol, 34 Conway Road. I'm the fire commissioner, chairman of the fire commission. And we would like to meet with the selectmen and bring them up to date so they're all aware of what the problems are on both sides of the issue. And we have some suggestions we'd like to do. You have some of them in front of you, but we'd like to make sure everybody is aware of what the problem is. It's just not a one-time vote and that's what we'll do. There's a lot more involved legality-wise and state statute-wise and everything else. So,
Okay, and so maybe that meeting that Sandy's talking about would be a beginning.
we're glad to meet anytime, any place.
Okay.
So, was there a liaison assigned to the Warehouse Point Fire District?
Not that I'm aware of.
Perhaps that would be an opportunity for one of the new guys to learn about those issues?
Perhaps it would, but we don't have to, you know, if they're not willing to volunteer, then that, you want to do it? Yeah. Okay. Okay. You're our fire guy then.
Great. Fire and finance.
Fire away. Okay, is there any further discussion on fire protection? Okay, we'll move on to Margaret Drive. And how many people, raise your hands, are here from Margaret Drive? Okay, well, I don't think we can all sit at the table. So,
But Matt and I will.
okay, Matt and you will sit at the table. You want to? Why don't you move around here so you can please?
Steal the short chair.
Sounds good.
Why don't you sit here so you can see the people? So we can hear you. We'll do a slide down.
That's fine. Not a big deal. Okay. So I guess, first of all, I'm Lori Whitten, the town planner. This is Matt Tiksinski, the assistant town planner, zoning officer, and wetlands officer. I guess we are here tonight because the Board of Selectmen had asked previously to give an update. So we are here to give an update.
But also, let me think, Jason, you asked to have this on the agenda.
I did.
Okay, and the reason you did was?
It was at the request of the residents.
Okay, so we'll say we're here at the request of the residents, and I would say that I at other times that I've noticed there's some emotion involved in this, and so let's try to be civil and let's have one person talk at a time. Let's not interrupt. And I think my perspective here is that Lori Whitten is the and Matt are the zoning enforcement people, and that's their job, is to enforce zoning, and they know zoning and the rules, and I know you guys have a lot of questions, so we'll turn it over to Lori, and I guess we should raise hands and call on people and answer their questions, if that, or do you have a better plan?
Whether, that's up to you. I mean, at this point, I am here as staff to give you an update and a synopsis of what has occurred.
Okay, why don't you do that?
Yeah. Right, so I think this all started in approximately April of 2016, and we got calls saying that there were large vehicles and trucks and noise, and that Mr. Stu Brown was operating a business out of his house. So I will say that this was during a time of transition in my office, and the whole time that this has been going on, I've had 3 different zoning officers, and in between I've had times where there was no zoning officer. So we did the best we could. We went out, we documented everything that we could. We did notice some trucks, some semi-trucks going in and out. There were some machinery on the site, a little backhoe type of thing, a scissor lift, a dumpster, things of that nature. Overall, it looked as though there was probably a business being operated on there, but the way that we do zoning enforcement in this town is that we go and try to talk to the person, and we try to work with them as best we can. As long as they are working with us, we continue on and we try to just move forward. We could issue fines, we could, send out that nasty gram saying, we're gonna fine you $150 a day if you're not complying. But that's not the goal. The goal is compliance. We're not trying to earn money here. We're trying to get compliance. So we have, like I said, through three zoning officers and myself, we have gone through different iterations, and Stu Brown has worked with us to comply with many of the aspects. We continue to get a lot of comments about traffic and noise, which neither one of those things are a zoning issue. We have no jurisdiction over either one of those. So we can't do a thing about that. And so I thought I'd have Matt just kind of go through a quick summary of what the complaints have been and what the status of them, what they are now.
Yeah. So, so I got here in September, and since then, we have been out to Stu's place 3 separate times. I've met with Stu twice, and I have communicated with him in letter 4 separate times. And during that time, we did receive some complaints from the residents. I read through all of the letters that were put forth, I believe, in the October meeting. And some of the common complaints were about the storage of chemicals, which is the DEF fluid, which Stu says he's using for his own personal vehicle. The portable garage, the storage trailer, and the fence. People also complained about. And he has a permit for all 3 of those. The commercial dumpster as well, or what was called the commercial dumpster, people had an issue with as well. And he is doing, so Stu has told me that he is doing home renovations. And so it will be removed spring 2018. And then there are also some wetlands issues. Where he was dumping some debris on the terrace escarpment area right next to town property, and so we addressed that, and he cleared everything from the TE slope area. He's coming in to the wetlands meeting tomorrow to discuss the possibility of a permit. Just kind of discuss what's going on, and that is all I have for right now. So updates. I'm sure people have questions, and that's fine. I'm happy to answer them.
Just for clarification, at this point, I believe that the one outstanding issue is whether or not the company truck is a 1.5-ton vehicle or not. And we're looking at definitions, and Stu did send something in to us today, and I will be bringing that to the Planning and Zoning Commission to have them make their own determination as to whether or not they feel that the definition is correct or not. And then there's the wetlands issue. So, but he actually cleaned it up. So all that was done was he had put debris over the side on the TE slope. He didn't cut trees or anything of that nature. So the slope was still stable, and subsequently he has removed all of the debris and wood stuff and junk that was on it. And a lot of it apparently was there before, and that came from another neighbor. so it wasn't even all his.
Is that documented? Or is that alleged?
That it came from the previous neighbor, it's hearsay from the other neighbor. I mean, I don't think anybody could prove it one way or the other. It's just like there was some grading and whatnot on town property nearby. There was a slope going into, excuse me, some tracks going into the town property, so we understood that, yes, he'd certainly used some vehicle to go into the open space area there, but I can't prove that anybody did it beyond that. I can't prove that anybody in particular was in there with the machine digging or not, unless I saw that it was them, or I could trace the tracks from one point to another, and I couldn't do that without some sort of, I was unsure. There was no obvious path, because there were paths all over the place there. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, I just got one question.
Yeah.
Right now, is this man in violation except for his pickup?
I don't believe so, but we will.
Well, it's a yes or no. I mean, it's not a
Well,
belief so. I mean, it
well,
leaves it wide open. Is he in violation at this today?
I'm trying to figure out what the definition is based on what he's given us.
You're talking
versus-
about the pickup.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
one
but
and a
I
half
said
ton.
everything else but the pickup.
I believe he is in complete compliance.
Okay, other than whether his pickup has got too big of a GVW to be bringing it home.
Right.
And that could mean 200 guys in this town wouldn't be able to bring their trucks, their pickups home.
That's probably true.
Way to be a riot around here. Whatever.
So, quite honestly, this to me is a planning and zoning issue and not necessarily something that should necessarily be before the Board of Selectmen, but
Shouldn't
you
even
asked.
be here.
It was asked by one of the selectmen, and I'm happy to come and speak to you about this. But I do believe that we've been doing our job the best we can with the resources that we have. And I do believe that Mr. Brown has been trying to be as compliant as possible. And things take time, and nothing happens overnight, especially in government. So, we have many, many, many other activities and tasks in our office besides zoning enforcement. So we got to it as timely a manner as we possibly could.
Okay.
2 years.
Well, it looks like we got some questions, so would you want to call on people, or you want me to?
No. I would just ask that you make sure that you please state your name and address for the record.
Robert Wynot, 25 Margaret Drive. I have photographic evidence that the materials are still dumped over the terrace escarpment, concrete stumps, there's concrete, there's stumps, there's,
When were those
And when were
photographs
these
taken?
photos were taken Sunday.
Sunday.
Okay, and have we seen them?
Yes, you have, I believe. But you've
If
been
you
to the
take-
property,
if
if you were to go to the
Excuse
property
me.
in the southwest
Wait a minute.
corner.
Hold on,
All right.
if you took them Sunday, have we seen them?
These photographs, no, but you've
No.
seen the property, you know what
Okay,
was
did you
there.
go out and see it?
Yes, and I actually, I have pictures in the office, actually, that show something. I mean, I haven't seen these pictures yet, so.
I mean, this is looking down, this is from his backyard looking down. This is the pile of debris that's over the terrace escarpment. This is his backyard, this is a new pile of dirt that he's been digging.
Okay, this is not the time or place to
not
give
the
evidence.
All right,
If you would like to show us these pictures, please send them to us, make copies, digital, whatever, but.
The area that he has cleaned was the area that was the old trolley line, and that was there from previous neighbors. And now he's taken that and he's just pushed that into another big pile in the center of the trolley line. He hasn't cleaned it up, he just made another pile. The other pile that's dumped over the terrace escarpment includes pieces of concrete, tree stumps, gravel, dirt, all other kinds of debris, fill, that is over the escarpment. If you go to the southwest corner, I believe, of this property, it's there.
Is that cleaned up?
Based on the last time that I was there, yes.
No, it's not. When was the last time you were there?
I'm telling you,
This has been here for 2 years and it's
the last
gotten
time I
worse.
was there was November 1st.
And were you on the south, were you?
Yes.
You were near the southwest corner?
Yes, sir.
Where the trail, where he has cut the track down to the trolley line, to the left of that, there is a pile over the hill. I can't tell you how many, 20 yards of material that's over that hill.
It's been there for a long time.
How long?
He started dumping, I believe, 1.5 years, 2 years.
April 16 at least.
Okay, so you're saying that it's only been there for 2 years?
Yes.
That, okay.
We used to have a trail through the woods. We would walk down with permission to Thompson's property, the 324 field, and we would skirt the back of Mr. Martino's property and Mr. Brown's property, and we could get down to the trolley line. That trail no longer exists. It was a deer trail. That trail no longer exists because of the material that he has dumped over the terrace escarpment.
Now, when did we start working on this wetlands thing?
I made the formal complaint on,
It was late fall.
It was September 25th.
Well, we said late September, that's close enough for Bill Miller. you know? So this is relatively recent. There was a, well, relatively. I mean, we were talking about business 2 years ago or something. Now there's a wetlands problem. And Will, I think, and he's going to go to the wetlands tomorrow?
He is scheduled
Yeah,
to do
and
so.
so
I
should
believe
think-
he will
yeah,
be
I should
appearing
think-
before the
yeah.
Wetlands Commission
I
tomorrow.
should think you
and
could
have a
work with
conversation.
these gentlemen. Matt could go talk, and these gentlemen could, no, you can't do that?
It is not a public hearing.
Okay, all right. Okay, so,
It is a public meeting, but it is not a public hearing. The public will not be able to speak.
Okay.
It's a conversation.
oh, no,
between-
I didn't mean there, I meant public, planning and zoning in the next week or two can go and.
They're able to come and see us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
of
we
course.
could, we can go look at it,
Yeah.
so that's something that we can do, okay. Yeah,
also on your cease and desist order dated October 15, 2017, you made quite a few requirements for him. There's still 3 trailers on the property, 2 trailers unregistered, plus one in the front yard with a for sale sign, one that he uses on a regular basis to haul equipment and materials for his business out of the neighborhood. And one is there that's just unregistered, still back there. There's still an excavator, there's still you said the dumpster's gonna be addressed for March of 2018.
okay, well,
Okay,
that's another thing, so we have to check on.
The one unregistered trailer, is still an unknown, and I don't know whether he sold it or has registered
Okay.
it, so.
You said that it also states the commercial storage bin should be removed from the property, it's still there. Material and equipment deliveries and storage for business must cease from the site. He's still having deliveries made to the site, and he's still taking.
Deliveries of what?
I don't know what's coming in.
So is this a
Truck
FedEx, UPS? Or
One
is
of the-
this,
one of the-
are
one-
these big semi trucks coming to the property, or is he
Yes.
getting?
Yeah, trailers, large trucks with whatever's on it, I don't know what it is.
One of the neighbors personally witnessed
He's
last
had
week,
over 10 deliveries in the past month, 2 months.
4 times in one day, his truck came in empty and went out with materials for his business on it. Back in and back out.
Okay. Well,
10 deliveries in 2 months.
10 deliveries of what?
Mr. Brown. I don't know what's in the trucks, it's not my business.
But here's the thing, I get deliveries.
I've
You
seen
get
trailers
deliveries, I'm
come in,
sure-
I've seen water
You've seen
trucks,
trailers.
I've
I have-
seen stone
you've
trucks, I've seen
Okay.
dirt,
Cement
I've
trucks.
seen, they're all trailers
This is
or
really
large
very
dump
improper.
trucks.
Okay, yeah,
This is
now,
That's a
completely
delivery.
improper. This should be, if you want to be doing this, it should be before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And this back and forth in the public forum is really.
Well, you don't
I
have
don't-
your information correct. You
But
wait
watered
a
this
minute,
down
this is a back and
Excuse me.
forth, this is getting
Hold
out of
on.
control, we'll have to just
I have
stop it
been
if we
told
can't.
by so many people
No.
that you have pictures, videos. I haven't seen any of them except for from you, Jim, and
Okay.
those are probably 8 months old at this point. So I have not
have
seen
one from last
anything
Friday night.
to the contrary.
With his excavator on the escarpment digging.
He is allowed to have an excavator.
Not on the escarpment, he's not.
It's not on the escarpment.
Yeah, he is on the escarpment.
Okay.
What are you talking about? I can show you right on the map. What town do you live in?
Okay,
Jeff,
this
Jeff,
is
don't-
getting to be
Well, she's
insulting, you know what town she lives in. Actually, it's Suffield, but let's stop this. Jim, I don't want you to speak anymore. You serve, you can have the floor.
Okay. Can I say something? My name is Richard McPherson. I live 50 feet from Mr. Brown's house, closest of anybody in the neighborhood. If there's any noise to be heard, I'm going to hear it. All right? If there's any construction going on, I'm going to see it. As far as deliveries is concerned, you can't stop commerce. If you have tractor trailers going down your house, I was a professional truck driver for 50 years and a union representative. You can't stop your oil truck. You can't stop a delivery for concrete if you're making a patio. You can't stop a guy delivering water. You can't stop FedEx. You can't stop UPS. So what kind of town are we living in when we're going to bring up what truck is going down the street to make a normal delivery? He may have some points. This gentleman is a decent person as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Things are wrong.
And, yeah, the reason we had Lori come, because something like this happened before, and I think that the Journal-Inquirer being here didn't help at all either. But this is a planning and zoning issue.
Right.
And to come to the Board of Selectmen with a planning and zoning issue, it seems to me that you're saying our planning and zoning department isn't doing an effective job. And I think they are in most cases. And I would say that maybe the Board of Selectmen, we should address this a little bit. Is there anything that we can, any comments, anything you guys want to say?
The question I would have is whether that site is complying with the zoning requirements and whether we have issued non-compliant requests to change to bring it in compliance. And if in fact the owner is not violating the zoning regulations, and if in fact he is bringing things into compliance, it would just seem to me that it's a matter of getting information from people like you and working the problem together. I'm sure you people, it's hitting a nerve with you people, but I think you have to be reasonable and we have to understand what this person is doing, and we have to decide how best to cope with it. And that doesn't mean that what you're saying is correct, and it also isn't saying that what he has is correct. Yes?
I believe if you were to come out and visit the site yourself, you would agree it looks like a construction site. He's hauling stone in, and granted, it's not a zoning violation. He can fill his own stone, your backyard with stone. But there are zoning violations that have been admitted. The slab was poured in an improper place. Is that correct?
What slab?
I believe the slab for his hoop house, his temporary garage.
We were concerned about the drainage over it. There was nothing saying he couldn't pour the slab. There was concern about drainage going over it and causing real erosion on the slope.
Okay. Was there also supposed to be a wetlands bond posted for?
No.
No. It wasn't required? It wasn't a requirement? No.
Okay, I would be interested in what other board members have to say. Jason, you have.
So, can you talk a little bit about the history of cease and desist orders issued against the property?
So we have issued notice of violations and we have issued the cease and desist order. And subsequently we've clarified most of the stuff. Like I said, the truck is still an issue and maybe the trailer is still an issue.
And over the last 2 years, how many of those notices or orders have been issued?
Do you have a number?
I don't have an exact number. I'd have to look through the file.
I mean, we tend not to issue notices and cease and desist orders over and over. We tend to work off of the latest and greatest and try to get compliance. So it's, have we issued
so
fines?
If I'm doing something untoward on my property and you guys tag me for it and I get a cease and desist, and then I come back and I say, okay, let me try and fix it, and then I don't, and you tag me for a cease and desist for a separate violation, the first one doesn't count anymore?
No,
You said the
the
latest and
cease and
greatest.
desist would lead to a fine of whatever the zoning violation is, $150 a day. per
So what did your comment
violation.
about the latest and the greatest be?
It's the last letter that we wrote. So
So-
there's notice of violation, then there's cease and desist. We have not gone to that next level.
Have there been any notices of violation or cease and desist issued and pulled back?
Pulled back, I don't think so. I'd have to read through the entire file again.
Nothing
Like
from
I
March or
said,
April of this year?
Pulled back.
Rescinded?
Rescinded? I think so. Have we rescinded anything?
It was before he hired.
I think what we did is we put a clarification as to, there was a cease and desist, and then we said, okay, so here's what we found 30 days later. And we did a clarification of what was still outstanding. I don't think it was a rescinding of a cease and desist.
So explain the process associated with the 30-day period. What happens when a notice or an order is issued, and then what happens at the 30-day mark?
At the 30-day mark, so the cease and desist is issued, and we give people about 30 days to respond to us and try to fix the issues. If indeed that they are making progress and trying to fix the issues, we work with them more. When they start stalling and they haven't done any further improvements, and they obviously are not going to, then we can move forward with the fines ordinance.
So if
And after that, it's court.
If there is a cease and desist order issued, because I'll use a real world example. I'm storing used oil on my property, and you tag me for that, and then in 30 days later I can demonstrate I'm only adding half as much oil as I used to be to the property. Or am I getting better, or am I still bad?
There's no zoning requirement, there's no zoning ordinance about storing the oil. So when we
As
learned
an example, I'm conducting a bad behavior, I'm conducting less of a bad behavior, but I'm still conducting a bad behavior. Am I getting better or still bad?
Well, you're certainly getting better, but that's not a zoning violation. It's a DEP thing, but it's not a zoning violation. And storing of DEF, and I've talked to the health department about this as well, and they're like, they just treat that as though you're storing the same stuff for a tractor or your lawnmower.
So what is DEF? I don't know what DEF is.
It's diesel exhaust fuel?
Right, diesel exhaust fluid. It's
Diesel
supposed to-
exhaust fuel.
It burns separately and
And
cleans the exhaust as it's
Right,
coming out.
and it's not considered a toxic substance. It's not.
So it's fuel?
It's fuel. I have a big can of gas in my shed, 5 gallons.
Sounds like STP to me.
So he has a race car, he uses it in that. So it's not a zoning violation.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
What's your name?
Robert, Bob, why not?
Bob?
Why not?
Okay, but your first name is Bob? Okay, so I'm gonna say Bob, okay. Where do you live on Margaret?
25 Margaret Drive.
So where is?
If you go into the second entrance of Margaret Drive,
Which is,
second.
I know it's like a horseshoe,
Yes.
but what would be the second entrance going towards Ellington?
If you're towards Ellington, yes, sir. If you go down that entrance, I'm on the right-hand side,
Okay.
2 houses from the corner.
Okay. So you go in and out of that road all the time?
Yes, sir.
And where it meets is Route 140?
Yes, sir.
So you don't have a problem with the first house when you leave on the left? That's all I'm gonna say to you. Okay? You don't have a problem with that house on the left when you go out, when you leave your Margaret Drive?
No, Andy, he's a part-time landscaper, he has mowers and a trailer.
What's he doing?
Really?
What's he doing, sir?
What's he doing?
He mows lawns.
Running a business.
Yeah.
Well, you say that, no one will be mad at you.
No, okay.
What
Are you
street
doing
is
the
his
same to
house
that
on?
gentleman as you're doing to Mr. Brown?
His house is on 140.
I don't think the extent of what is being done
That's
on
not
that
the
house is
question.
the
A
same.
business is a business.
His house is on 140. It
It's
faces
still right on
140.
Margaret Drive. His driveway comes out on
140.
Margaret Drive.
Okay, we're getting it back and
We're
forth.
getting out, that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
No, I think this needs to be resolved
in zoning.
Yeah, I think,
This is
I'm,
not something that we
well,
can-
a young lady there, well, go ahead.
Okay, so we're here tonight because the business continues to operate at 20 Margaret Drive in our residentially zoned neighborhood. We brought this complaint to your attention in June of 2016, but the business continues to operate. The business is also registered with the state of Connecticut at that address. Many of the stated cease and desist violations are still occurring. Employees still come with personal vehicles and leave in work trucks, sometimes towing trailers loaded with construction equipment and carts that are stored on the property. These trucks are traveling up and down Margaret Drive several times a day. Delivery of construction materials are still being made. In fact, there have been 10 deliveries made in the past 2 months, as well as the USA hauling that comes to empty the commercial dumpster for the past year and a half. 2 of the trailers stated in the cease and desist order are still not registered to the property. We would also like to know how the stored chemicals have been taken care of, because we all have well water. Again, as stated in the cease and desist order, all construction equipment should be removed from the property. Construction equipment is still located on the property. In fact, in the past 3 months, he has operated an excavator on his property 45 times for up to 6 hours a day. During the months of June, July, and August, he operates his loader every day. These violations were included in the cease and desist orders issued, and they're still continuing today. And this doesn't even include the violations of the wetlands that he's been cited for. Zoning regulations are supposed to control how you can use your property. They need to be enforced to protect our property values. When the residents of Margaret Drive decided on where we wanted to live, we expected that zoning regulations would be enforced. We didn't choose to live next to a commercial construction business. He should run his business where regulations permit. The talk around town is that the town is losing its ability to enforce its land regulations. The residents of Margaret Drive deserve to live their lives in peace and quiet and feel safe, as it should be. After all, that is why we chose to move here. If these conditions are not met, we're prepared to do whatever it takes to bring it back to living in a residential neighborhood. When can we expect this to be resolved?
It's interesting.
Can I have an identification, please?
I'm
Yes.
Lori Martino from 22 Margaret Drive.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's interesting. I would get involved myself because I care about my residents. But, and I care about you and I care about Stu. And if he's violating any zoning ordinance or wetlands ordinance, I would work with him and anybody else who can show me what is wrong, I would have it corrected. And I'd be there, and I've been there. But the funny thing is, the newspaper gets on my case. Anthony says I'm supporting one side or the other side, and I'm not. And that really inhibits me from, or prevents me from going to solve your problem. And maybe we as a Board of Selectmen should go and solve that problem. But Lori's our zoning officer, and I would say if you and she don't have come to an agreement on a specific thing, a zoning thing isn't, well, our neighborhood is not the way we like it.
No.
It's too noisy. If it's too noisy, that's a problem for the police. And I guess you have had the police there 5 times. Well, I'm not going to have a back and forth with you. I'm just going to say that if you don't agree with what Lori's doing, then you and Lori come into my office and we'll talk. That's what I'm going to say.
You choose to live in a residential neighborhood, and you make that choice knowing that those regulations are in place to protect that. And when it turns into a construction site, you should be protected from that.
And if you don't think you're protected because there's a particular zoning regulation that's being violated, you come into my office and Lori and I will sit down and talk to you. And if you can convince me, and I guess you're right, there's probably 2 trailers that are a problem. Okay, sure.
Mr. Chairman, the problem that I had is, and everybody has a Lori, and I have nothing against Lori, you know, I love you, so it's not against you. But in the zoning regulations, I'm considering this business a contractor's office, and they're not allowed in a residential or an agricultural zone. Have you addressed that in your cease and desist, like you are doing this and you're not supposed to be in that particular zone? And the other thing is, I live at 7 Market, and you live at 8, and what we're facing, and not what these residents are facing, they have a lot worse time than we do. We're getting the dump truck noises and those speeding cars at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day when they're done with their work. So and you're saying we need to go to the police, so we could do that, but that's going to be very hard for me to catch at certain times, these people speeding up and down the street. And the dumpsters, and the trucks coming out with the payloaders and banging. So we're putting up with that on the upper part of Market Drive. Like I say, they have the worst part down there. But the only thing that hit me was maybe if it's a contractor's office, it should not be in our zone anyway. It needs to be in a B zone or an M1 zone. So I was wondering if they were dealing with that, just a violation of where it's supposed to be, not in the right zone. Thank you.
$5 permit.
Yeah.
What? Go ahead.
They have a $5 permit to have their office in that house.
$5 permit?
Yeah, well, the permit was $5. You had to pay to have your business office in your house.
See, I don't understand this. This is
They
planning and
have,
zoning.
they
So
have
I'd
that
say-
permit.
I would say, why don't, again, you and I come into my office and we'll sit down with Lori and I'll understand the situation because I don't.
Well, I understand the contractor's office, just the office. In the regulations, you have 1 employee. There is a lot more than 1 employee, and all those trucks coming in, that's not the same as in the regulations that allows the contractor's office in your home, okay?
Okay, now I hear what you're
You have
saying.
businesses in your home, one employee.
Okay. Okay, well, I gotta, we'll look into it better.
I would like to say that over the last few months, I have heard from Jim Martino saying that he had stopped having his employees there, he had stopped having deliveries, and he was complaining about noise, wood chippers, and the chainsaws. That is not a zoning violation. I can't do anything about, everybody in this town has a chainsaw on their property. And half the people have wood chipper. I cannot do anything about that. They are allowed, everybody's allowed to have that on their property. If you want to have a little bobcat or something, there's a lot of people that have that. It's their toys. People do this. This is East Windsor, it's a farming community. Almost everybody has something, some sort of big little, like equipment that would normally be under construction. When we were talking about construction activities, we're talking about having him working on parts for his business. That's different than having the little bobcat or whatever that is. So, but basically except for noise and traffic, that's the only complaints that I have gotten over the last few months. And I have received no videos that everybody says they have, and very few pictures. So I don't know what we're supposed to do if we're being told one thing, we're not being informed of the other things, and we've gone out and we don't witness whatever the violations that are, what they are. Again, the trailers are an issue, the truck may be an issue. The wetlands we're working on. So I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I would say, and I'll just reiterate, come to my office. If you think you have a problem, we'll work on it.
You're gonna need a bigger office.
One at a time.
So, there is no statute that says that we have to enforce anything. It is something that this town chooses to do. We try our best, we work towards compliance. That's all I could say. We are doing the best we can. I believe that Mr. Brown is making great strides in trying to comply. So until tonight, for the last 2 months, I haven't heard anything. any complaints except for noise and traffic, and I can't do a thing about that. So that's kind of my story.
Okay, I think.
I think that actually is the concern though, and is not the noise and the traffic so much, but the fact that there isn't a statute compelling compliance. There is, that is something that the town chooses to do. And I think the concern is the town isn't choosing to do that universally. We're picking and choosing here, and I think that they actually have documentation that indicates that.
I don't know where what that's leading to.
So this is a regulatory function. This should be a regulatory role.
Right.
It should not be a policy decision. And there are policymakers who have been involved on the location in terms of determining whether or not things are in compliance. That is inappropriate.
So you're saying I shouldn't go there?
I don't believe that
I'm
that's
saying
true.
I would strongly suggest you not go there, but certainly none of the rest of us should go there.
So that means really that Lori's the one that has to go there.
She's the regulatory official.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's fine. Guess what I'm saying is I can't solve the problem then if I can't go in, see what he's doing, and tell Lori to fix it.
I think certainly the Planning and Zoning Commission could do that.
Okay, well then it's the Planning and Zoning Commission. So go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, don't come to us.
Completely inappropriate.
What's wrong with the First Selectman trying to help out?
Because they are not the regulatory board.
Because of whatever Jason said, I can't help out.
The Planning and Zoning Commission is the regulatory board. For planning and zoning, this board has no jurisdiction over the regulations or the enforcement. However, they can compel staff to do things because we work for them.
So I got accused of being in collusion. I think it's said in the paper. Next I'll be accused of being colluding with the Russians.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on. Come to my office. You're always welcome to come to my office.
Let's move on.
All right. Now, another discussion that'll be interesting. Community Day Committee.
Feel free to stay if you want to see more abuse. I called, we put forth the Community Day is ended.
Thank you.
And we wanted to issue the last of our monies to some charities in town. I couldn't get the checks from the town because we were claimed to be a town commission, which we're not. And we're also not a town committee. And Mr. Maynard, no, I'm not going to calm down. No, I'm not going to calm down.
Jim, come on, make your case.
So, well, I've had to deal with silliness and listen to what went on tonight. So here's a copy, Bob, of your email exchange with our commission on November 6, 2016, stating the fact that we are not a town committee, which means our money is our money, and anyone trying to take it is basically stealing it, or embezzlement, whatever term you want. Now, what questions do we have for you?
And I don't have any questions. Well, I do have one question. But let me talk to the board. Can I talk to the board?
Actually, my attorneys advised me not to respond to you. Since you told me to hire one, I've gone out and got some legal advice.
Okay, let me
and I'm not speaking with you. You can do whatever you want. You're the chairman of the meeting.
Thank you. So Jim has said in his email that the Community Day has run its course and the Community Day has decided to disperse and the monies in a particular way, and that's fine with me.
It's not your choice. You don't run it.
Don't interrupt me.
I can do whatever I want. I'm a resident.
So he's asking to disperse the monies, and I think that's fine.
The committee's asking to disperse the money.
The committee's asking to disperse the money. I think that's fine. I just thought that I would bring it to you because when anybody gives the town funds to administer, it's the responsibility of the town to do a good job. They trust the town to be above the board and open, and I thought that the ending of the Community Day, I'm sad to see that end, and I thought I would bring this in to you and say that if it's all right with you, we'll give Jim the money the way he wants it distributed. This seems like very good causes. The only thing I would say is that Jim's leaving $18.88 in that fund, and we as a town don't want to keep $18.88 in that fund indefinitely. It's something we don't want to do. So if Jim could give us another place to put that money, that's fine, or add it to one of these things, or I don't want to keep $18.88.
Jim, why did you hold out the $18?
Because we felt if any incidentals came in after the fact, we'd have the money or we'd have to pull it out of our own pocket. This is not town money. It was not donated to the town. It was donated to the committee. The committee has operated for over 18 months, probably going on 10 years, without any town involvement. I've gotten millions of checks from, millions, excuse me, I'm exaggerating, but I got checks for porta potties. I've never been questioned on my request for checks. This all comes about because Mr. Maynard has a problem with me personally. It goes on a regular basis. An example would be as we were getting to Community Day last year, we talked about the Ford Town Fair, we talked about the 250th. Not one word on any of the videos or in any of their minutes have I seen a mention about Community Day from the previous Board of Selectmen. So now, when we go to disperse our money properly, we met with the 250th, straightened it out so they would have an ease into their Heritage Day, because there was some confusion between Community Day and Heritage Day. Rebecca and our committees met, we straightened it all out, and this is just the last thing. I personally get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. Last thing I need to be is here at night in this meeting with what I see going on, asking for money that isn't the town's, it is the Community Day's money, donated to us.
But Jim,
Who has the money? Who opened the account?
That was opened by Dr. Gallucci, so if I was to take the history of Community Day, originally it was a Board of Education function. The Board of Ed decided not to fund it. Dr. Gallucci, George Gutenkopf, and myself got together, George being from the Lions, me being from the Rotary, and I believe the Business Association at that point, and we came up with a plan to run Community Day without any funding. And now how we did it was to get businesses and donations. And we continued to build our seed and build and build and build. And we would have used the 1,300 if we weren't shutting down. We would have used it to run next year's. That's our seed money.
Okay, and who writes checks to the porta potty?
I, as chairman right now, would request them. The treasurer would certainly cut the checks because it is in the town account.
It's in the town account.
I don't know why, but it's there. And there's 15 other, sorry Jason, go ahead. You probably, there's other accounts that are like that.
So the money's in the town account?
The money is administered by the town. It's held in a non-general fund account. We do this for a number of different organizations. A couple that come to mind, I think we do it do we do it for veterans? We do it for the Veterans Commission. We do it for the 250th Celebration Committee. We do it for Community Day. We do, there are 6 or 8 different organizations. I think the BMX skate park, I think we do.
Dog park,
community garden, community garden. All of these are held in non-general fund accounts, and the town extends, one of the advantages is the town extends their tax status to these groups, so they're able to do some of these community-based things.
And people trust the town,
Correct.
because the funds will be administered correctly. They'll get invoices, and they'll pay the invoices, they'll make the deposits. All the deposits and expenses are above the board, they're in public view, they are subject to the general accounting standards, and they're audited once a year. So if you put money in a town fund, you can be pretty confident that it's going to be handled correctly. And so that's why people do it. And as Jason said, there's a stat tax advantages too. So.
Jim, I have one fundamental question. You want to dispense this money to these organizations.
That's correct.
You have a residual balance of $18 you can put someplace.
That's correct.
I don't personally see why you should not be able to do that.
Because, well, we should be able to do it, we should be able to do it without standing here and asking you.
Well,
It's not the town's money. I had put in, as you see that request to the treasurer, I let the treasurer know if I need to sign forms as usual, I'd be glad to come back. I was contacted by the treasurer, and I was told basically that I could not get the money, and I said, why not? And she said, because Bob said so. And then I went up through the chain. She said, would you like me to connect you to Bob? I said, please. I spoke with Bob, and basically I asked him why he was keeping the money. He said, because I can. He said, if I wanted to hire an attorney, I asked for a legal authority. I was told to go hire an attorney. It was quite disgusting, to be honest with you. And when you talk about money being given, the money was never given to the town. It was given to our committee. And as you can see, we ran it correctly. We made sure, the reason we used the treasurer was it's better to have a treasurer that's bonded than somebody on a committee being a treasurer and having that money disappear with that treasurer.
Bob, when the 250th anniversary committee was formed, we decided that we would solicit money for events, and after all the money was spent, and if there was residual money, we wanted to give it to organizations like the food shelf, food corner. That's kind of like this, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, I think we don't want to, as a town, indefinitely hold this $18. It's fun. People are going to
No, and it's
Jim said he'll dispense of that.
It's not the same. That is a town committee. We're not appointed. We have no obligation to the town. I certainly have appreciated the support that I've gotten from Park and Recs, Public Works, police, the staff here in the building. My problem began, Andy, when I wanted to get the money after our committee made a decision, after we dealt with the situation with the 250th, which I felt we dealt with good. I hope, Rebecca, it was a good meeting.
Yep.
And this is just me doing my last piece of public service. And when I wanted to get the money, I wanted to have it for the first of the holiday season. I'm now here on December 6th, having to stand in front of people who shouldn't even be voting on it. This is not your decision. And I was only delayed by one person who decided he knew what he was talking about, that he decided he had the legitimate, and that he told me we were a town commission, even though his own email shows that we did not accept that offer. And there was reasons behind that.
Is it as simple as me making a motion to dispense this money?
You don't have the right.
Well, but Jim.
That's the underlying issue, is do we have the authority to do it or not?
Well, let me say this. I believe the treasurer pays that money. That she cuts the checks. And I don't think that, I think the treasurer has to make a decision of whether it's reasonable or not. And I would, and I don't know if I have the authority to tell her to, and I didn't, I wasn't sure I had the authority to tell her to cut these checks. So I wanted you guys to and if you guys say, Bob, you can do, or the treasurer can do whatever she wants in this case, I would be happy to let that happen.
And will that hold true the next time the Veterans Commission comes and asks for a check? Or
That would come true the next time any check is questioned. Then I'll say if there's a question about that check, I'll bring it to the Board of Selectmen and discuss it with them, rather than have me make a decision about a questionable check. And that's all I'm doing.
So you're questioning our honesty?
I'm questioning the procedure, and if I'm not sure that a check should be done, and one question that I would say is for this $18 in 18.88, if we have to go to somebody and say, okay, it's been 5 years, we'd like to get rid of this, we are sick of tracking this money, who would we go to?
But I think Jim is willing to make that go away. It sounds like he's willing to attach that to wherever they want to attach it.
We left it there, so if a bill showed up next month for $40, the community day would have to dig out $21.50 out of their pockets, take the 18 and pay the bill. We would not be asking the town to pay the bill. The problem is the lack of understanding how some of these things work from the top. And that's why I'm here tonight when I should be home in my bed sleeping. I'm not a volunteer, I'm not an elected official for the town, and I'm quite perturbed with the way I was treated on the phone. When I asked questions, I wouldn't get answers other than, that's the way we're doing it. And that questioned my honesty and my character on top of it. He accused me of harassing the treasurer, which I did not. Okay, so that's why I'm upset, Andy, and you know me well enough to know that I get upset about what I think is important. And I'm more concerned not about the 1,300, I'm concerned about the Veterans Commission. And then I hear through the grapevine that the Five Corner had trouble with the town. So how many other accounts are going to have trouble getting their money when you all don't have a say? It's not part of the budget, it's not taxpayers' money, it's the committee's money. And instead of doing something nice so we could end Community Day, which got a lack of support from leadership in the town, so we could end it on a nice note, doing something positive for the community instead of something negative. And that's why I'm here tonight. I've got better things to do than argue this point. So that's why I say you shouldn't even have to vote on it, other than say, cut people's checks that have the right to have them.
Is there not a town procedure that govern these organizations like Community Day and their money?
Again, I'm still not sure with my question. If in 5 years we don't want to have that $18.88,
he's going to get rid of that.
That's a non-issue.
See what I'm dealing with? This is what I got on the phone the other day, guys.
He'll get rid of that. He'll attach to
but can we
something.
give it to him?
Well, here's the
But I don't understand.
Bob.
If these checks.
She wants to speak about something?
I'd like to take care of that $18.88 right now. We're going to increase the amount that we're giving to the Broadbrook Library by $18.88, and the account will be closed. Any bills come in, we end the account.
Good. Okay. All right.
Now, the check registers that we sign here,
Yes.
okay, will those checks
No.
be on there?
No.
They will not be on there? Okay.
Okay, so I guess we're in agreement that this is resolved. And unfortunately, Community Day is now at an end. And if you want to get it started up again, come to us.
No, I would tell no one to volunteer for this administration. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, Jim.
Dale.
Dale Nelson, 51 Amelia Road. So the other monies that now, like for the veterans, for youth center, for the Five Corner Pantry, those are all donations. I know because I write a check every month. So, but they have the absolute autonomy, Five Corner covered, to buy groceries, to buy canned goods, to buy whatever they need. They don't need this board's approval to have those checks mailed.
That's correct.
So that should be for all that the town holds the money, but
Dale, it sounds like the town is just simply providing a no-cost administrative function.
exactly.
So it isn't the town's money.
No.
And it would seem to me, an amateur here, it would seem to me that if it isn't my money, why should I have anything that, why are we here tonight talking about this?
Right. I absolutely agree.
Right.
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. We'll move on to the next. Next is...
Yeah, we'll run with it. Let's just get the job
Okay.
done. Get the job done.
The Broadbrook Mill site.
Get it done.
Get it done.
Well, I want to say one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to say one thing on a comment. Jim ain't here, but he said he got no help from this board up here. But this board was before, he's talking about was before Andy and Charlie was sitting here, okay? Now, when he says he couldn't get no help, I asked him, how much did you pay for the portables the previous year?
Sorry,
He said, pardon?
What did you say, how much did he?
I asked Jim, because I was trying to help out on Community Day.
Okay.
I said, how much did you pay for the portable toilets the previous year? I heard something like $700, $600, something like that. So I told Jim, I said, look, next year you got them for free. So don't tell me I didn't try to help and save him $500, $600, $700. So then I saw him, it was just before us. I said, Jim, what's going on with the toilets? Oh, the committee made a decision to rent them from somebody. I said, I told you I was going to get them for you for nothing. And you would have had $500, $600, $700 more dollars in your pocket. So they didn't choose to take the help. So when you come here and you say we don't care, you're talking about a guy here who offered to save them all that money and they didn't take advantage of it. That's all I got to say.
I want to say one last thing. Jim came in here very animated and angry, and that's wrong. But what we have to do here in town is have some kind of a procedure that precludes this in the future. If we don't own a procedure that says these organizations, it is their money and all we are providing is an administrative function at no cost to them, because they are do-gooders, then we should have it. And that doesn't sound like a big deal to put something like that together.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I don't think this was a particular problem, and I just wanted to bring it to the board to see what you guys thought, and that didn't work out too good.
Well, we got it done.
Yeah.
Before we leave, Bob, is there someplace that is written how we should deal with these organizations in town, that we are handling their money, but it is not our money, and we know it's not our money?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's.
We should not have this problem again, is my only point.
No.
I think, well, okay. Again, I'll say it, I think if a particular expense, if the treasurer is reviewing a particular expense that one of these funds requests, and she questions it, maybe it's, please write a check to Joe Small.
Why did she question it, though, is my question.
I don't know, and I felt that I wasn't a person that should make, and maybe I should make the decision of whether, and maybe I could have, but I said, I don't know, let me ask the board, because the board has complained that I haven't involved them in a lot of decisions. So I said, this is a decision the board can make, it's not a big deal, but it became a big deal.
But Bob, you shouldn't be pushed into that corner. It should be very simple, and Jason, I'll ask you this question.
I had nothing to do with this.
Well, no. There should be a procedure that makes this go away. Is there any reason that I couldn't sit down and write a one-pager?
Well, there's a whole board that should
There's a
handle
board
this.
of finance that deals with the finances of the town and probably should.
I'm sorry.
The board of finance, if we're concerned about this, is probably something that should be brought to us. Although it's never been a problem before because they are accountants. They submit their bills. They have no perusal from board of finance or you guys.
It's clear to me that makes good logic, but my question is, why did the issue come up at all? Why isn't there something?
Because unfortunately, there was an argument, and that's how it got here.
It was just
It never
personality?
got here.
It's just personalities?
Correct,
Oh,
probably.
okay, so in the future, when some organization like this comes and says, we want to close out our books and we want to give the last $1,000 to, whatever, it will happen. We need not get involved.
Well, it depends. Excuse me for interrupting, if I can. It depends on where you want the money to go. If he says, give it to my brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so that's what the gray area comes into. And that's why, and you're right, if you get a bill, you pay it. That's what our treasurer does, is she collects the deposits, and if she gets invoices or bills, she pays the bills. And all that's public, and it's audited, and the auditors make sure that happens correctly. So if a bill is just written to somebody, if she questions it, and I'm not sure what to do, I would bring it to the board, and that's what I did.
I'm not certain of even the legality of the town administering that and holding that money. It's not town's money, and about making the decisions. And I mean, can anybody just come to the town and say, you know, I want to avoid some tax complication and do that? You know, I think we should ask the auditors, the town auditors, about this. Is this proper procedure to even do this?
Well, but we like to help. Usually it's the organizations that were like, Jim claimed that we weren't helping him. My gosh, us helping him got us into this.
We should help everybody, but from a legal standpoint, I'm not so certain that this is. And he does have a right to do what they want with the money if it's not a town organization.
Yeah, but does he have the right? I mean, that in a sense, those are contributions that were made to Community Day.
Yeah.
Now, if he said, and he didn't, he chose good causes, but if he said, you know, give it to my wife.
No, I understand.
So it's just a great.
What you have to understand too, in the past.
The simple answer is, and it was done properly, however, it's a committee. Committee made a motion, they passed their motion. If that data was supplied to the treasurer, this would never have to been discussed. That's how it's done. When the WPCA does a transfer of funds, we pay the treasurer's office to manage our money at the WPCA. So they have to do what we say. However, when we say we want to transfer money from account A to account B, we have to provide the details of the money that authorized it by the authority that has the right to control it. Their committee decided to do these things. The rule should be, if you want to write a procedure, is that they provide the minutes of the meeting that authorized it, and now you're done. The committee can do anything they want as long as the committee does it, not an individual.
What you guys have to understand, Bob probably came to us because in the past, he was criticized pretty heavily by the Board of Selectmen for not getting them involved. Okay? All right.
You got to admit, I got you involved this time.
They gave him holy hell for making a decision on his own.
You took it well.
Without coming here. So, if he came here because of that reason, good enough for me.
Okay, let's get on to the.
Let's move on.
Broadbrook Mill.
Get her done.
Yeah, we got it done.
How could you get in the driver's seat?
Oh, you want to be in driver?
Thank you.
I guess you can see that we've done it over this a long time. Jason will get tired of it. But, yeah, well, you could contribute, because Jason knows it. I'm just going to quickly go through. This is the building that we're trying to save, maybe save. Some people have, there's a lot of different opinions on what should happen. But if we do save anything, it would be that building. This is the back of the building. I just put that building up. Here's more shots of the building. I'll just go through. This is the Broadbrook Dam. I stuck that in because if you go there and look at it, it's a lot different now because of reconstructing that dam. And this is the powerhouse. Yeah, that's in kind of disrepair. That's the powerhouse. Got a little turret up there. This is just a view from the field at the Broadbrook Mill. And that's the mill again. Then this, you don't see this very well. I got to pick it around, but it didn't come out too good. Okay. This is kind of the where it is, and this is kind of the white lines, the whole property. This is where Main Street Grill is. This is where the houses or the mill, and this is green area. The yellow area is the polluted area, and so that's quick overview. This is this too. Well, this is Lori's drawing, and one is the building. Two is a parking area she's thinking about. This is a holding area for stormwater. Thank you. Okay, I can't read it. Should get that one. Okay. This is where the possible building site pads are. This is 5 is an amphitheater type thing. This is like for parks and picnicking. So that's generally what Lori's thinking about doing with this thing, which is good. And I have an email I'm going to read. Try this one too. This is something I went over before. And some options that we have to do with it is the town can own it and the reuse. If the town owns it, it can cap it only and have no mill. It could save the mill, or it could do other things with the area. Somebody else could own it, and also UTAS could own it. So that's some options we have. And this is interesting. This is something I got today. This is a Gantt chart. And increase it a little. All right. But this is United Technologies Corporation. It's a Gantt chart of what they were planning on doing. And it's 2017, and they were going to have 30% of this design done. And it's called, and I'll read it out of there. I don't remember what it's called, but. And then they were going to have it done in October, and then in November through December they were going to have it 60% of it done, and then they were going to submit it in January and 100% in February. They were going to do local permitting, which started in November, and they were going to come to our meeting, the Board of Selectmen meeting in December, and the public meeting in January. Well, that slipped a little bit. So now let me go read that email. And,
but it does, Bob, sound like they are pursuing this.
Yes.
And that the window for us to do something is not long.
It's not long, but it's longer than it was 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So here's the email I want you to read to you.
It's longer than it was 2 or 3 months ago?
I know you find that hard to believe, Jason. You got to accept reality. But anyway, this is what I received today from Morris Hamill, and he's the central person in this. He's the DEP guy. And he says, as we discussed this morning, these are the comments that DEP and EPA had on November 17th, remedial action optimization plan, and that's what this was for. The concepts are generally good in the 30% design, but it lacks some of the technical background needed to support the changes. It also did not speak to any redevelopment suggestions the town had provided. Unfortunately, these comments will result in pushing back the schedule a couple of months in order to assure it gets done right. Once we have a plan that DEP feels is not going to change, we will make sure you get a copy so that you can see and comment on the updated plan. And then attached to that is an email from the EPA. And it says, hello folks, EPA has reviewed the report titled Remediation Approach Optimization for Hamilton Standard Corporation Broadbrook Mill Site, dated November 17th, along with CTDEP's comments below. EPA is in agreement with CTDEP comments, but has a few questions for AECom. The attached schedule is the most recent schedule that EPA has received from AECom. From looking at this schedule, the RAO report, it is not clear when 30%, 60%, 100% remedial design submittals will be submitted to the agencies for review and comment. According to this schedule, the 30% RD was submitted in October and the 60% RD will be submitted in December. This does not seem realistic. The schedule shows 2 public meetings, one with the Board of Selectmen and one planned in December, another with a public meeting planned in January. Can you please clarify as to what the objective of each meeting is? Is the public meeting the one intended to parallel EPA's ESD protocol? If it is, EPA recommends that it take place at the end of the RD after all the technical issues have been ironed out and approved. What is the status of Hamilton Standards 106 consultation submittal to THPO and SHPO? I know SHPO is State Historic Preservation Office, and I called them and they're getting involved. Please submit an updated schedule of remediation activities with the milestones, including the agency review deadlines. EPA is committed to continuous to support Connecticut DEP and Hamilton Standards Corporation in this project. To do so, EPA respectfully requests to be included in the all future project meetings and discussions. So that's good. The EPA is involved, so that will slow things down. And let's see. There was one more. Okay, one more thing I wanted to read. It was just the last part of a letter. It says, town's comments, and this was from DEP, and it says, since the town has committed on the initial concepts being proposed in the revisions of the remediation action plan, it would simply benefit the public comment process if the town's future development suggestions were addressed or at least acknowledged in the remediation approach optimization report. It appears that the site-wide cap will result in portions of the on-site road being under 2 feet of fill, with isolated portions of the south end of the site also being raised 2 feet. Also, no mention was made of, and he goes on to say about that, but he wants Lori's plan put in to the remediation action plan that AECom is doing. So basically, that's my talk tonight about the Broadbrook Mill site. But you were right, Andy, that we kind of have to decide what we're going to do with it, whether we want to own it. But it was interesting, too. Maurice said that what Lori's little sketch helped with is now UTAS is starting to realize, they said it was good because they might be able to market the site, because if they could sell the site to some developer to do what Lori was suggesting, that would also be a thing. And I know, Steve, you said you want to get tax money out of that property,
Absolutely.
so we got some work to do.
I have a suggestion to try to get at that point. I believe that the town should set up a committee that interfaces with UTC, UTAS or UTC. And it should consist of people like Lynn Norton. It should consist of people, well, somebody from the board here, our town treasurer, so that we know what's going on financially, and probably Rand Stanley, someone like that. If we don't have this if we're not treating this in an orderly manner, you know, the five of us are not going to solve this problem. We're not going to do it efficiently, and we will never get to the end. At some point in time, UTAS will be required, or by the corporation, to get off their butt and do something. And we don't want to have that go in the wrong direction. Now, as I said in the last meeting, I don't know whether it is something the town wants to get involved with. Destroying the old factory is easy. You're destroying history, which I'd rather not do personally. But we also, as a town, do not have the kind of deep pockets to renovate that building. UTC might well give us the remediation money and demolition money. Yeah. It's going to be remediated somehow, even if we take it over. But the demolition money could go to renovation, stabilizing the roof, for
Bless you.
I'm sorry?
She just sneezed.
Oh. God bless you. So, I really think that in order for us to be a partner with UTAS or UTC, we have to put together some kind of an organization that can help think this thing through. The five of us are not going to do it. It's too much for you to deal with out of your office. You know, you can get information, you have the right kind of access to people, but you have to have some people who are doers.
Okay, I think you're saying we need a committee to do this.
We need a committee.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good point. Okay, so you wanted to know where we are. Now you have a better feel, I think. So.
Okay, I'd like to see by the next meeting your recommended committee members for this, so we can get something on track here. And because you can certainly talk with them, they want to be on it, don't want to be on it, or whatever. Because, you know, part of that would be also looking at, I'm sure that there are other buildings in the country that are historical buildings that have had similar issues, and how did they deal with it? And did they get money from the National Historical Society? You know, I don't know, but I've got to think these old manufacturing buildings, right, Andy, that they've been doing this.
That one time in the State Historical Preservation Office, I talked to them, and I'm also, Kurt and Jessica Bottomley are going to get involved in that, and they talked about grants too, so we are starting we're starting to pull things
That's why we need this organization to attack those kind of things. And that waterfall chart you showed, we should have milestones in there. You know, we have things to do, they have things to do. Once we form a partnership, it's going to be easier for us to talk to them, and they will be more sympathetic to a timeline that is good for both of us.
Okay, we'll come back with a committee.
Okay.
All right. Last order of business is to elect a deputy first selectman.
I nominate Andy Hoffman for Deputy First Selectman.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason, but I don't think I'm qualified to do it. I have not been here long enough to do that, but I appreciate your confidence in me. I'd like to make a nomination.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Steve Dearborn. He's been here long enough to understand the problems associated with the board. He is certainly greatly interested in the town, and I think he's eminently qualified to sit in for you when you're not here.
And I'll second that.
Okay, and Steve, well, do you accept that?
I'll accept.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
Naturally.
All right, so now we're on to selectmen reports. So, Charlie, you're
You
on.
missed something.
What did I miss?
Tax refunds.
We're a little tax.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Give away the rest of the money.
All right.
$18.
So, yeah, $18.88. So I would entertain a motion to approve the tax refunds of $382.85.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, Charlie, you're up if you have any report.
No, I don't. The Board of Finance hasn't had their meeting.
No? Look forward to that, yeah?
So that's, I think we covered early on what I wanted to cover regarding the, getting this study done.
Okay, good. Steve?
I guess my only comment is the dam down here. Everybody sees it. It's going to be pretty nice when it's finished. That spillway looks like it's going to be, what, like 10 or 12 feet of concrete? It's going to be pretty nice.
They've got a bunker under that where the Board of Selectmen are going to hide during an atomic attack.
And then I could talk about wetlands, meetings that have happened, but I'm not going to bore you with all that stuff. Well, I'll tell you, okay? Newberry Road Enterprises, I own the thing anyway. We cleared some land out there. We had our meeting out there. I'm going to the meeting tomorrow night with pictures, and because I had stumped some land, and I should have got a permit for the stumping. The clearing was permitted, but the stumping was not without getting a permit. So I got another piece we're going to clear and stump, and we had our little field trip out there, went very well, and decided on a few things to do and correct, and I agreed to everything. And tomorrow night, I'll be going before the wetlands, or my Newberry Road Enterprises will be going before the Wetlands Commission. And we'll have pictures and everything, and where it'll, the problem was when I stumped it, we put the stumps at a lower area to keep anything from leaving the property, any silt or dirt or whatever. The concern was there was a little area where I might have put the stumps, which would be, I didn't realize, considered filling wetlands. I thought it was like a silt fence or bales of hay. Well, it's not. It's considered permanent. Okay.
Steve, a question for you.
So we did all that, and we're going to remove them tomorrow morning. They're going to come and do that, and everything will be the way it's supposed to be, just the way we agreed.
With your big machinery, why did you grind those up?
I wanted to use the stumps as a berm. Okay, they actually work better than the hay or the silt fence. The water has to filter through the roots and everything.
You're going to leave the stumps there?
Yeah, I'm going to leave them right there.
Where the roots will hold them?
Yeah, and it worked good. We had 7, 8 inches of rain. All that rain came up behind there, and it just worked perfect. Everybody says they should stay there, but the Wetlands Commission says they have to be removed in an area that consists of 15 feet. So I hired a big excavator to come to remove stumps in a 15-foot area to make everybody happy.
Okay, good.
So that's kind of my report.
I'm smiling from ear to ear.
Okay, Andy, it's your time, your comment or report or whatever.
The Economic Development Commission has not met. I talked to Marlene today about it, and she's going to include me on the agenda and on the notification of the meeting. So nothing to report.
Okay. Jason?
Pension negotiations are ongoing. We have continued to meet with the clerical bargaining unit, and tomorrow we will meet with the CSEA bargaining unit, which is non-certified employees within the school district. We are in the process of negotiating with all of the bargaining units in town, plus unaffiliated employees, all in the interest of saving the town money over the long run. And we're hoping to bring those to conclusion just as very soon as possible.
The fact that you're, excuse me, negotiating with all the unions at one time, that makes it much more complex, doesn't it?
We are negotiating with all the bargaining units at one time. We are not negotiating with them together, which would make life much, much easier.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, I was vague there. So we're in the midst of many different negotiations simultaneously, which is not ideal.
Okay.
Now, you said that you're negotiating for reduced expense over the long term.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 5-year target, you have...
It's a 20-year amortization.
20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what would be the percentages over that time?
I'm not going to go into that in open session, but I'll talk to you in executive session if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, I'll talk just a little bit about the middle school roof. That's about 80 to 90% done. They're working on a metal slanted roof, and they hope to get it done very soon. So it's a fixed price, so it doesn't change the price. They're a little late in getting it done. Also, as I think Steve mentioned, the spillway, I talked to Lenny a little about that, and they build what they call a coffer dam. It's a watertight enclosure to permit construction below the water line, and then they put in a 4-foot bypass pipe, so they're bypassing it.
Will that stay in there?
No, it'll come out. Yeah.
Then what are they going to do? What are they going to do with that hole in the bottom?
I don't know.
Can they pour hydride cement in?
Well, I noticed, I went down there today, I was driving by, and I saw the 4-foot pipe on the left-hand side as you go in with the flow of the water. But there was something in the middle, too. There was a lot of water was coming through that.
They put a large pipe in there also, in the center, or near the center.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether it was going to be, permanent with a gate valve, or...
I don't know. That's a good question.
Wasn't that the gate valve right there that they opened up to drain the pond?
Could have been. Could have been a gate
The
valve.
one right in the center, that was a gate valve,
It's
wasn't
on
it?
the side.
Huh?
It's on the side.
On the side.
And what was the hole in the
The
center?
gate valve was on the side, right next to the People Street.
Yeah. They have a weir on that side where you can open it up and spill the water.
Yeah.
I don't know if that dumps it down as low as they are now. Probably not.
No.
I thought I saw something in the middle like that was standing up. With
That was just a divider in the center of the pond. It used to be a walkway, you could be able to walk across there.
Oh, yeah?
So if they know people go in there and they can repair the dam and everything.
Bob, I have one question, and it's absolutely rhetorical. Why in the hell are we starting that job in the beginning of the winter? Why wasn't it done when you could work in shirt sleeves instead of gloves and heavy parkas?
It should have been. But
That's
I guess
the way we do it in Connecticut.
Was it money? Was it money?
Yeah,
The
bidding and-
availability of money? It was.
Well, the bidding and just the process, yeah.
Well, I have a question. Since the pond is drained for the most part, what is the possibility of, dredging that pond again while it's all down?
Yeah, I think it's too late for that. I think it's starting to come up already, the pond.
Big bucks the last.
Just an aside from that, I'm probably the oldest guy in the room here. When I graduated from college, they did that. They drained the pond, and they dredged it, and they sold it. What they did is, people like Stanley Kimmett and a couple of other people in town who had large excavating equipment, did it for nothing, and they sold the top, or the soil,
Yeah.
the sediment, to people, dirt cheap, and it worked. I don't know if we could get people in town, you know, in the construction business to help out with something like that or not. You know, once you get the dam fixed, you can lower that pond anytime you want. It doesn't mean you have to dredge it all in one shot like they did, you know, back in the days, you know, in the 1950s. But it would preserve the pond. If you look at it now, the pond on the north end's gotta be, you know, a foot deep is all when they when they refill it.
That's all it was before.
That's
all it was before. It was that way in the 40s.
Della Construction did that the last time.
And that's why they did it.
They ran out of money. The Army engineers didn't estimate the amount of fill they had to come out of here. So we started taking out as far as they go with the money they had.
Yeah, but the last time they did that, they drained it and put the pontoons out.
That was in the 80s.
I was living on East Road.
Yes.
Because I wanted to get all that and raise up all my land on the side of my house, because
A lot of that dirt is right down in the mill site right now.
Yeah.
I bought hundreds and hundreds of yards of that stuff and built up the south side of my dad's property. The only problem was it was so hard, it wouldn't grow grass for about 3 years, and then it did as the best grass in the country, you know. But at any rate, dredging would be kind of a neat project, and I'm sure you're right, Paul, that it's only money.
It's all money.
But again.
That's $500,000 now.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, I guess public participation.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. Curiosity question. Before the town hall renovation started, it was a piece of the Charter Oak up on the wall. It's not there anymore. It's like a mantle.
I agree, I remember it.
Yeah, well.
Where is it? That's a question.
Thank you. It's a great question, because that's a historic item that can't just disappear.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk to Joe and Lenny and see.
Yeah.
Should go right back up there.
Well, it's probably stored somewhere for safekeeping.
You hope.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, I guess. Ours.
Tom.
Tom Dalmini, 23 Rice Road. Couple comments on the mill site. One, I think the town should not ever own that site, because it's just, if UEC, Tom, or whatever they're called, wants to get somebody to buy it, that's fine and dandy. The town buys it, we're responsible for it. There's no way we have the money to do any of this stuff on that plan. If we gotta put a building in, we're responsible for taking care of that contaminated material, if we own that property. We do not have the money, or it would take forever for the town to get something like that approved and get it through the voters. I mean, we can't even approve a budget. To approve something like that, to build a building, oh, that'd be a horror show. I think the town should not take ownership of that piece of property at all. And I'm still waiting, I thought DEP or UTC, somebody was gonna come for a meeting with the town. We're still waiting for that. It's been a long time.
How many meetings, Jason?
Tom.
I've lost count. We're well past 30.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just a little informative, I think a little bit of information to the town people is better than none.
Yeah, I talked to Maurice about that today. Didn't get an answer.
I would just assume see.
That was 6 months ago.
So those 8
I would be happy to see Bill here.
Yeah.
Bill Penn here. At least he could give us an overview or something. I mean.
But I think
we got to bribe them. That'd be something to get them here.
Tom, I agree. The town can never own that. It is really a big financial burden that we just can't undertake. And now I'm going to get in my soapbox. What we really need is an investment of some relatively small amount of money to hire ourselves an economic development director. Because without that economic development director who could help to focus this thing, we're going to be floating around.
Andy, we don't have the time for that.
Yes,
By the time
not
we
for
get-
this project.
By the time we get
Maybe
an
not for
economic
this
development for that
But
project, that project will be long gone.
you're right.
They'll be done with that
And
by the
I
time we
agree.
get an economic.
But there'll be
development.
other things like the mill that have to be dealt with. And, you know, I was on the Economic Development Commission for 3 or 4 years. We're a bunch of amateurs. We didn't know what to do. We consumed information and did nothing with it. You gotta have someone who leads the charge. The Economic Development Commission could be effective doing spot jobs. It is in other towns, but it is not the organization that will drive the train. It is not. It's one man we need to hire.
It's a marketing person. It's a marketing person.
Okay,
I think it's a
Just got one comment.
development.
The
It has
solar
a next
farms
in Hartford and-
down on Lumley Road,
Yeah.
they're gonna open Thursday and Friday. The
Nice.
fire department's going down there, we're putting Knox boxes in the worst places.
What boxes?
Just solar, Knox boxes.
What are those?
They're boxes that the fire department get in, some fire in there, access.
Okay.
It's all fenced in, it's all set to go. Thursday or Friday, they're gonna put up.
Okay, Dale, okay, you're, Jess.
I'm Wayne Sherry, Depot Street, Broadbrook. 2 questions. Why do we want that site? Why do they want to get rid of it for nothing? I think. Questions. I think they're kind of self-explanatory.
I think those were redundant, or they answered themselves.
They had so many bad things going on there, even before that with the mill.
Yeah.
And then they just added to it.
Yeah,
But you know, there are instances around the area where good things have been done with old buildings. Once we tear that thing down, we've lost a bit of history from our town. If you look at the old woolen mill, or the old sweater mill over in Rockville, that was a derelict of a building. You know, it didn't have a window in it. It rained in for 30 or 40 years. And somebody, not the town, maybe the town helped a little bit with whatever, but some developer picked it up and turned it into a beautiful building filled with apartments. And once in a while, my wife will, I'll head out to Yukon to see what the campus looks like. We'll drive through that parking lot. It's pretty damn full.
It's absolutely beautiful. I agree
It's a
with
beautiful
you.
building.
It's a different construction, number one.
It is.
And they did not, number two, have the same problems in the area with Hamilton Standard owning it. When Hamilton Standard owns it and wants to get rid of it, there's a problem, I guarantee you.
Oh,
yeah, we
Just
know.
like in,
We know that.
Brad Whitney's
Absolutely, no
honeycomb
question about
problems.
it. The Hamilton, United Technologies wants to get rid of it. It's a bird. It has to be remediated. That's a pain in the butt. It's going nowhere. It's going to fall down. They don't want that. There's liability there. They got it fenced off, but if somebody gets in there and gets hurt, that's a problem for them. They want the best thing for them is destroy it.
Aren't we? We're getting paid taxes on the property we own.
Yes.
And when we own it, we don't get anything.
Right.
Absolutely.
We never own it. Never should own it.
Well,
We
just
should not
saying,
own it.
if we do.
Should
they
not
get
own
nothing.
But they did something similar, maybe it was more like this one, with US Envelope in Rockville. They made that into a senior living center to live there. It's like, kind of like this building here. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when they're gonna give it away, it's just like when, they gave, the land for the football stadium.
Yeah.
Why? Because that was a runway.
Because what's underneath it.
Yeah, it was a
It's
runway.
full of-
They
it's
dumped
full
the
of,
chemicals on that
contaminants
runway
underneath it.
for years. And then they brought all of that to East Windsor.
Yeah.
I think the contamination in that land is not bad stuff. It isn't something that Hamilton did. It's what the Broadbrook textile mill did, and I think it's mostly coal ash.
Didn't Hamilton have an electronics facility there?
They did, but not in that building. They occupied the new building that was burned. I worked in that building very shortly.
Right.
Carbon fiber. They made carbon fiber.
That was after. Hamilton did that for a little bit, and then they sold it off to another company, and it folded. But
If we own part of it, we own all of it, though.
Exactly.
We own part of it, we own the whole thing.
oh no, I agree. But the area that I think they're primarily concerned with is the area around the building.
Right.
And I think that's coal ash. I don't think that's bad
It's
you know,
coal ash.
It's contaminated.
I don't think that's bad stuff.
But it's still contaminated.
They used a lot of mercury there for what they were processing.
Yeah.
Electronics?
Yes, because I know somebody had mercury poisoning from there.
Yep.
Yeah. Personally, somebody in town.
There's a lot of stuff on the ground.
There's a lot of problems.
I got a call on Dale. She's-
Dale's had her hand up a long time, she's gonna get a stroke out there.
During the last Board of Selectmen, Jason, Steve, we went to the mill and we looked at it and it was full of mold.
It's horrible.
It was just a mess, falling down. A building committee went too. I don't know why we're bringing this up again, because we voted at that time that we wanted nothing to do with the buildings. Now all of a sudden this is coming back as a question because of its historic value. I don't know who's gonna pay to clean it up if you can at all.
But Dale, did we consider the possibility of finding a private sector partner for something like that?
That's gonna be between UTOS and
Right.
somebody else. It's not, has nothing to do with the town. We're not landlords. I don't wanna be a landlord.
No.
That's not my job.
No, I don't think we should be a landlord.
Right.
But you know, someplace between UTAS and with the town of East Windsor helping, or being not a financial partner, but being a part of a team, maybe we could find somebody who would be willing to develop that old building for some purpose.
How much longer are we gonna sit on this?
I don't know.
Exactly.
We
We've been on
probably
it, we've been on it for
We
how
don't-
many years?
That's my
Yeah.
problem. That's why we need, as maybe as meager as it is, this committee that I'm talking about,
Right.
to bring this thing into focus and say, it's either something we can find a partner for with UTAS, that, you know, they've got hooks out a lot of places that we don't have.
But it's been voted on by the taxpayers of this town. Why are we rehashing this? That's my point. Our taxpayers said, I don't wanna spend the money. So what are we doing?
But
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the town has already said no.
to spending money.
Right.
They haven't said no to saving the building through private sector investment.
As we want nothing to do with the building. So if UTOS wants to make a deal with Joe Excavation ABC,
But they
I
may,
applaud 'em.
but they may need some help that they aren't willing to give. Like, for example, if you're going to invest, if you're going to be a partner in this, maybe the town would have to give some tax abatement credit or whatever.
I still think it's a moot point. We voted not to do it. Period, the end.
To not do
So-
what, though?
To not own it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to own it.
And we wanted nothing to do with the building.
But
If
we-
I'm wrong, you
But
guys
we
tell
didn't
me.
vote not to save it. I agree. I agree 100% we should not own it. We don't have
But
pockets
if-
deep enough to do that.
Right, but if
We'll
we
be-
go back and look at those minutes, maybe we can find out exactly what that motion was, because the way I understood it, we walk away from the buildings, period. Now, the land still has to be remediated. Now, how much are they gonna remediate? Those are all the questions that are still the million-dollar question. Are they gonna cap it? Are they gonna clean it? Those are things that we've been asking UTOS and DEEP to come and talk to us about for 30 or 40 meetings. So you guys are just coming in now, and Jason and Steve know. I mean, I'm not talking out of school. You guys agreed. This has not been just tonight or just a month. It's been years. And like I said, there's a motion, and we need to find out what that motion was, because if the taxpayers have already voted not to do something,
Well, if the taxpayers have voted, you know,
that's what we have to find a motion.
if they have voted not to invest, I agree with that.
Yeah, but
I don't think
know
we
if
had
they-
I'll bet you the town didn't have the right to vote not to try to save it. That's kind of up to UTAS. If they can strike a deal with somebody, and if they come to us and say, you're gonna have to kick in $500,000 worth of.
No, no, that was one of the things. We're not a pocketbook for anybody. We can't afford our own budget. We can't pass a budget for any more than 2%. You're not gonna get $500,000 out of a stone. No. You're not. I'm
Unless,
just being honest.
unless you can point to it and say that it is gonna deliver that in taxes over a period of time. You know, as an
It's if they
example,
stay
the
in
town
business.
of Windsor invested something like $15 or $20 million in that big warehouse that they got over there, the Amazon warehouse.
Yep.
Because they had to do it in order to get them there. Now, that's a big tax producer, and I have no idea, you know, what the payoff period is on something like that.
And that would be something that again,
But it should be understood. I'm not sure we understand it. And I don't think the board is capable of dealing with this. I think there are people in town who might well be able to better focus this.
and not to disagree with you, but we need to find that motion, when it was and what the motion was.
Was that a town meeting?
Town meeting.
The town meeting, yeah.
Do we know what they, well, you're right, we should look
We
at what
need to know what
they
the
voted on.
motion was.
Yep.
They had a big meeting down at the high school auditorium. The people were there, they had tables set up, and they were trying to explain everything. And if I recall, that auditorium was packed.
Yep.
And they didn't want it.
Packed.
The answer is no way.
That's when we had the big meeting with these people.
With you, Tess?
Yeah. You know,
I'm looking at that.
But-
I want to go with Kurt, because he's...
I would just like to applaud Andy for your interest in the mill, because the mill is the heart and soul of this town. The dam you speak so highly of, probably, and I don't want to speak out of turn, was probably erected to power the mill. You know, so we're creating a dam and it's beautiful, but the mill, the town should do something, and I'm not saying ownership is the cure. The town should do something that says that was the mill. It's a nationally registered site. It's, you know, what's our next move? We're gonna move St. Catherine's Cemetery because I'm gonna put up a skateboard park? You know, if I push hard enough, is that gonna happen? That's a shame. You know, as the HPC chair, the Historical Preservation Chair, it's a shame at times how we act as a town. And I know financially you have to cave. Even as a commission, I had to go against everything we stand for to move the Barber Hill School. But you know what? The reality is that's the beauty of it, to save something of it. But the unfortunate, the reality is it should have never been moved. You know, it should have never been moved.
The town is poisoned.
Well, I agree. The UTC or they should stay on board to clean the site up. And I'm not saying, I think capping it is the worst idea in the whole plan myself. They should be all dug out and have them monitor it. And if it's a grass field, that Public Works has to mow. That's not a big burden to put on this thing that the whole town, 3/4 of the houses where people live in this room were done because of the mill.
Yep.
And there's no other way around it.
But there are rules, and Jason may know them, about what has to be done with various kinds of contaminants. For example,
I agree.
when I was over at Hamilton and was Vice President of Space and Systems, we used to supply rocket motors for attitude control systems for satellites and for transferring satellites into orbit. We had a firing site out there that used hydrazine. It had to burn hydrazine. We had to incinerate it and condense the effluent because it was such a deadly contaminant.
You know, I don't know the level. I mean, I think a lot of, even Tom's question, I think he's asking for more input on the whole situation. I know the State Historical Commission, the Indian Affairs, they're all involved with this. And it's, you know, it's not gonna be easy for any of them. And I know just knocking the buildings down and putting 2 feet of topsoil over it, guess what? East Windsor, no matter who owns it, it's always gonna be right there. It's not moving, so you might as well, and I'm not saying don't own it, I'm not all for that. But somehow that should reflect some shape or form of that mill. There's just no getting around it. You know, you're gonna have a beautiful dam restoration, and then what's it gonna go to? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe make it a simple zoning thing that some office complex has to build a building that has to resemble an old mill, because to put an example of that out there, that dollar store is disgusting. You know, right now, if I was sitting at that table, I'd be figuring out a way to make them put brick facade on the front of it. It's absolutely a disgrace to have in the front of, in the center of town. You know, and it's just, and I know that happens. But you want to create, you want to hold the cultural, the stuff in our plan of conservation and development. I think we skirt around it and everybody says we can't afford it. You know what? That sometimes you gotta afford it.
I'll bet you that UTC would help us put numbers to restoration.
No,
Can
they
I
don't
just
wanna
point
know
out,
nothing about it.
this is supposed to be the public participation section. It's not supposed to be a discourse back and
Okay.
forth. We should listen to what the public wants us to hear and then move on.
Okay.
Why do we move on, Jason?
Because I'm not sure everybody's been heard.
Okay.
I also,
Tom?
I've been to 2 different meetings down there, and USAP does not want to own that. They don't want the buildings. The buildings are just not what they want. I agree with Kurt. If you want to put a building up to make it look like the mill, that's fine. But your other 2 examples that were given, the Vernon site and whatever, have apartments. We can never have people living there.
Yeah.
That's why they had to buy them in the first place, because they had to get out, because it's not safe for people to live there. So it kind of takes away one option right off the bat. I mean, I think we really need to hear about what they're gonna do, cap it, how they're gonna cap it. I've been told that they're gonna put 2 feet of fill on this. You're gonna change the whole dynamics of that a little bit. I mean,
I
it's
was
not to a
also-
point.
Tom, but the contaminants that they discovered whenever they did this, that now that level is nowhere near and it's not dangerous, I don't know if that's true.
No, they
hear a lot
still
of
can't have
different
people
things,
there.
And we don't have anything that's current.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just have a quick question. Who's monitoring the Broad Brook? Are these contaminants flowing down the brook?
They're monitoring it quite well.
Who's doing the monitoring?
That would be, the AECom is the name of the company.
AECom.
AECom.
I think they have to monitor it every month, don't
Yeah,
they?
they produce reports and about that.
And so, do they remediate it somehow, or is it just nothing is going down there?
Well, they've done some remediation, there's some control, there's stabilization and I
There
don't
are
know
a lot
the
of people who
details.
fish there and are eating the fish. I'm just wondering if there should be a sign that says contaminated waters?
No, I don't think so. I'll get a, huh?
What's that?
How do you feel?
I don't eat fish.
Well, back in the day, there was a dam back there. I was told it got blown out because of the beavers, okay? The mill was there at the time. We all went fishing out there and swimming out there, and there was green and yellow and red stuff coming out of a pipe right there into the brook. But it never, affected me too much.
That's what the road is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we really should need these people to talk to us.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay, well, are we through with public participation? Yes. Then I'd make a motion, take a 5-minute recess and go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a model still. My thing tomorrow night.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
I like the overall tone and atmosphere of the new regime.
Well, I have to say, Jim Richards made a highlight.
Thanks for the entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah, as always.
People
Glad to hear Andy showing interest.
New business. 12B, what was the motion that was made about the casino? I did, there was one of those so moved.
I think Peg needs
You guys are gonna take their, do it. In 2 days, they'll be on.
We made a motion. Dale? What? Do you want to know a motion?
Yeah, what the motion was about the casino.
Yes,
So, I do it, hey, get your minutes out 1 second.
You
It's not that important.
I think she needs a raise.
I do. Yeah.
I do. Steve,
Yes.
put in for a raise for this young lady.
Yeah,
right
she's
here.
putting in a lot of time in our meetings. She picked the wrong meeting.
Yeah.
No, it's, you should do a comparison of meetings and meeting times and meeting pays.
You know.
Just saying.
You know where they have a good seminar for this kind of stuff? I think Aruba.
Yeah.
It's a yearly thing, about December-ish.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So just fly down there, work on your game, and come back well-rested, more
Sounds
knowledge.
good. Who's going into executive session for you? Just the board?
Just the board.
Okay.
And Jim, he was pissed because he didn't win. I mean, you can see a lot of animosity from people.
I don't care.
You know, I don't care either.
No, one better than
You know?
Since you're the deputy, are you gonna get me my name painted on the parking spot out here so it's reserved for me now?
Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Will you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask you,
Sure.
I don't know if you can do it or not. I mean, down the road a little bit, I mean, when we're having our meetings, do you think maybe I could get my feet wet and maybe run a
I'm
meeting?
out of here.
Yes, you
You're
can.
going to do an executive session.
Yes, you can.
See if I can.
It's a great idea.
You know, I think I should get my feet wet.
Well, you know, in fact, we all could handle meetings. What do you think about that?
I
We could
think
each
so.
take turn being the chairman for the night.
Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Isn't this fun?
yeah, I'd like to do that.
That'd be great. That's a great idea.
I'll think about it
So
all
tomorrow
day.
night I got my wetlands meeting. Got everything, it's gonna be done perfectly as Baker requested. Actually, I donated to do a lot of it, just to show them out, you know. So yeah, the excavator and have the low bed and everything get brought out, because John Holden using his, and it's got the thumb, so you reach over and you pick the stump up. It's only 15 feet, it's probably from peg to here, in that one low spot.
What we have to do, put a berm in?
Well, no, I gotta take the stumps out of
Yeah.
that part, because I had to hire a soil guy.
Yep.
He came out and he stuck the thing in the ground and he found out where the wetland spot was. Okay, good, I got that done, $350. Then the surveyors had to come out, and they had to get the real boundary line and this and that, buried on a map, okay? So that's gonna be, I'm gonna guess 2 guys out there and everything, and then they go back and they gotta do all the office work. It's $1,500 more, okay? So now John Holden, he'll be there. The guy hired the most beautifulest low bed. I said, well, this is $500 to move his excavator from Broadbrook over to Newberry. And he's gonna go out there tomorrow morning and he's gonna pluck them stumps out and just set them over
Bye,
here.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, Peg.
Out
Good
of that-
night.
See you in the morning.
Out of that
Okay.
15 feet. So probably 400 or 500.
This
for-
has got a clamp that'll actually pull it out of the
Well,
ground.
what it's got, it's an excavator with a bucket, but it has a finger on the back side of it that you can use to pick things up with it if you want, you know? So he'll move all them over for me. So then,
And you gotta haul the stumps away?
no, I'm gonna leave them there. Yeah, I'm gonna leave them there. And now, I either gotta put up a silt fence or the bales ahead. So if we get as much rain as we got this last big rainstorm, 7, 8 inches with bales, it's gonna blow right through it, and it's gonna put it all into that little stream. So now the landowner's gonna be after me, suing me. And wetlands will be where you polluted the stream, but right now, nothing got hurt one bit. So I've done all this to please this Roger, what's his name, Baker? His name's Roger, no. Can't think of his name. But he's a chairman of the board, and he hates me. Okay? So I've got to do all this just to try to keep peace, because I don't want to go back to the big fight I had with the town for 7 years. You know, cost me $200,000
That's a
in
lose-lose.
attorneys.
That's a lose-lose. Getting involved in something like that, isn't it?
You know, I got everything I wanted in the end, and more. And you want to know what the gravy on the potatoes was in the end? I got rid of Denise Menard, who was behind it all. And I got rid of Robin Newton, who was the zoning enforcement officer, wetlands person. She was just rotten miserable. She made guys put fences along, here's a pasture, there's a stream going across it. She made the guy put a fence on each side of the stream so his cows couldn't get in to drink the water.
Why?
This is just because of all the pollute the water. This is stuff she made people do. It was out of control.
I'll tell you one thing.
You know what she said to me? If you pull the stumps and the dirt falls off the stump into the hole, you're filling wetlands. If you want to pull the stump and just turn it upside down and put it back in the hole and farm it, you can do that. This person wasn't normal thinking, you know what I mean? But whatever.
That's too bad.
So everything should be nice tomorrow night.
Okay.
No, I didn't get a chance.
Camera's still on.
Thank you.
Is the camera still on?
Yes.
And we've been talking.
Yep, and I'm getting texts about those conversations.
Jason, what courses are you taking this semester?
This semester I'm